right. I'm just checking to make sure we're live. Welcome, everyone, to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. Happy New Year to everyone here and out there who may be watching. We are going to start our staff and community presentations today with an update from our colleagues at the Forest Service. Nice to see you all. And I'll turn it over to our Open Space and Trails Director, Gary Tenenbaum, if you want to make any introductions or welcome.
Sure. Thank you all. I'm Gary Tenenbaum. I'm the Director of Pickens County Open Space. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. And it's a great way to start the new year when we bring our federal partners, land management partners, to the BoCC to give kind of a quick update and kind of, you know, we're entering into a new partnership with the Forest Service upon many partnerships that we have, and that we're going to be assisting with the management of the Maroon Bells in 2026. And, you know, for me as staff, I do appreciate the support of the Board of County Commissioners. You guys made a special conciliation at the end of the year of the budget and included this position, which is going to be critical. And I'll let them explain how critical it is. But I'm really happy that they're here, and I can let them introduce themselves. So thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Welcome.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Schuler. I'm currently acting as the District Ranger for the Aspen-Sopris Ranger District on the White River National Forest. Happy to be here. Also very excited about this partnership that we're entering into for 2026. And I'm happy to talk more about what the future looks like with you all as well today. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. Brian Glassbell, I'm the Forest Supervisor on the White River. I had the chance to speak with you all a couple months ago, I think it was. Time flies. Thanks for having us back. I want to say thank you very much, you know, specifically for the new position to support the Maroon Bells, but more broadly just for all the support. You know very well that we couldn't do it there at Maroon Bells or elsewhere on the district or the forest without your help, especially this last year and likely going forward. But in general, just thank you sincerely. I know it's a bit of a heavy lift, and Gary was just sharing that a little bit more to make this new position happen, and we are grateful indeed. If it's appropriate now, I can share a few more updates from the forest.
Yeah, we're looking to you, I think, to
Okay.
provide us, and then if we have any questions, we'll be sure to pepper the conversation with them. Thank you.
Okay, great. I think I can share a sort of general update about where we are forest-wide and where we think we're headed in this new calendar year, and then I'll pitch it to Jennifer to speak in a little more detail about Maroon Bells operations specifically. So, you know, the big thing for us, no surprise, is staffing. We've been really challenged, certainly in the short time that I've been in my role, and in general over the last calendar year. We lost exactly 50 positions in calendar year 2025. So that's a little more than a third of what we started with, and substantially less than we think we really need to operate the forest. And so that remains a persistent challenge, and it will be this year as well. We're expecting some things on the hiring front to loosen up a little bit. I think I shared with you previously that for most of this last year, the only thing we were permitted to do is to make lateral moves, just reassigning people within the Forest Service to what we call line officer positions. So those are district rangers and forest supervisors. Those were the only positions we were able to fill, and we were only able to fill them with existing employees who were already at that grade somewhere else in the organization. That's still where we're at right now, but we have recently been re-given the authority to do temporary promotions, so to fill vacant spots for up to 120 days at a time in a promotional way with somebody who's, you know, not necessarily at that grade. That's the first step in what we're thinking will be kind of a stepwise progression taking us through midsummer and culminating in the opportunity to do internal hiring. So full scale, fill positions in a promotional way, but only with existing Forest Service employees. And that's about as far out as we can see into the future. As I understand it, it's sort of a continued negotiation between the Forest Service and the Department of Agriculture. So each time we get a little bit more authority and we show that we can manage it well and that we're not going to overspend our budget or overcommit, and we get a little bit more. And that's where we're at. Specifically, there are a couple of roles that will be of interest to you. Kevin Warner left, and Jennifer's been acting as the ranger on the Aspen-Sopris district. We put out an outreach right before the holidays, right after our extended shutdown, to see what kind of interest within the Forest Service among eligible candidates was out there. And I'll continue moving on that front to kind of explore our options for filling the position. Jennifer's obviously doing a fantastic job, and I just don't have a really good crystal ball about where we're headed and what kind of opportunities we'll have to fill the position permanently. We also have a ranger vacancy on the Dillon Ranger District, opposite end of the forest, and we did identify a candidate internal to the Forest Service that we're going to lateral into that position. We expect him and his family to move in March. They're currently stationed in Puerto Rico, so they've got a bit of a move to accomplish. Those are really critical positions on the forest, and glad to have at least one of them soon to be filled in a permanent manner. Let's see. One other thing I should have mentioned is among Forest Service leadership, it's not a rule, but it's our expectation that as we get additional authority to hire folks, we're going to focus on the boots of the ground, sort of boots on the ground end of the spectrum. So that's where we're really extra thin right now. The bulk of the people that we lost on the White River and across the agency are the folks doing the work in the field. Those positions, as you well know, in communities like this are really hard to fill without housing to provide, and in some cases money to support moves and that kind of thing. So that'll continue to be a challenge, because I don't expect that situation to improve anytime real soon. But that's where we're at on the hiring front. I think additionally, coming this year, you've all heard a little bit about potential reorganization at the department level and at the Forest Service level. A lot of unanswered questions still there, but a lot of things have happened in a de facto manner. We've seen something like a mass exodus of people from the Washington office and from most of our regional offices, as people predict that we'll see some changes in those places, and they're looking for a safe place in the field. So even if we're not directed to close offices or to consolidate at a national level, it's sort of been happening just functionally, and that'll probably continue as well. That has a big impact on our day-to-day operations. My direct supervisor is the regional forester, and now he has authority and responsibility for the Rocky Mountain region and for Region 1, we call the northern region of the Forest Service, headquartered in Missoula, and he has national responsibility for an additional portfolio that includes minerals and some other natural resource issues. So I'm not likely to have the same kind of access to him that I have in the past, and that goes for all my peers across the agency. That could be a good thing too, is we're going to be necessarily delegated some more authority and autonomy to make decisions at the forest level. I think I'll stop there on the general forest level stuff and hand off to Jennifer. If you have any questions, I can answer now or later.
Well, I would
Sure, we'll
just
have some-
make a
yeah.
comment
Go ahead.
that was really depressing, but thank you so much. And And in response to what you said initially, we are so happy to help, and I wish we had the capacity to help more because, as you know, the large percentage of our county is forest lands, and that's why we all live here. So I know Gary will keep being involved with you guys, and we appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I'll wait.
No, please.
So Brian, just one, Pitkin through the past year has basically said there's three things that are critical in terms of U.S. Forest Service. So the visitor experience, health safety, and really just the status of the forest. You know, how are we keeping our public lands? And so I don't think you have a crystal ball, but you didn't mention the W word once. So we continue to have concerns given our low snowpack and snow water equivalent in terms of wildfire and wildfire staffing. So sort of two-part question. One, directly on how do we maintain those three elements: user experience, health of the forest, and then sort of health safety of the public. And where are we in terms of staffing up and getting back to real levels for wildfire and wildfire preparedness?
Yeah, I intentionally left out the fire part. It's a broader discussion and certainly not independent, but functionally now the fire organization within the Forest Service operates a little differently. They've been, in a good way, exempted from a lot of the rules. They continue to be able to hire people and move people around and generally stay fairly staffed up. Certainly the part of the fire organization that we host on the White River and more generally in the region is in pretty good shape. And we saw that this last year when push came to shove and things got literally heated in August and into September. We did have the resources that we needed. I think that's going to continue. Bigger picture, fuels treatments and that kind of thing, that bleeds into the rest of the organization. We got to do NEPA planning before we do a fuels project and so on. And yeah, we're going to continue to be challenged there to have the resources we need to plan and prepare in a timely way. But I think Jennifer was pretty deeply involved in some of our prescribed burning start of the winter here, and it went pretty well. I mean, we got some work done when we had the right conditions, and we, generally speaking, had the people we needed to do it. So I think I don't want to over-promise here because one bad season and we could be singing a different song. But right now, I think on the fire front and staffing and resource-wise, we're doing okay.
Brian, if I may
Yep.
add, there's a couple points in there that I just wanted to elaborate on. And the first is this element of planning for wildfire and doing fuels reduction. And we've primarily been working off of the Aspen Sopris Wildlife Habitat Improvement Project, NEPA, that had been done, I believe it's back in 2011, where our prescribed burns and now additional acres of mastication or mechanical treatment is included in what we're doing on the ground. And what would be amazing is if we could look forward to planning for district-wide NEPA so that it wouldn't just be focused on those areas for wildlife habitat improvement, which is also amazing, but include some additional acreage to really tie into some of the things that we've already accomplished with partners around the valley and with the Wildfire Collaborative here in the Roaring Fork Valley. So that's one thing I just wanted to say is that we've been looking for opportunities to partner with others to really hone in on that district-wide NEPA so that we can continue planning for the future in fuels reduction in the Roaring Fork Valley. And then I also just wanted to say thank you for the support through the Sheriff's Office for the community response officers that Pitkin County hired this last year. That was an amazing partnership that we had with our front country individuals, the dispersed rangers that we have that Pitkin County also funds. It was a huge help to have them on the ground, both from a just visitor experience standpoint to also, ensuring wildfire prevention when you're looking at times of fire restrictions or things like that. So again, just thank you for the community support in those types of positions as we move forward.
I'm kind of wondering, is there, does this forest act like a pull on other forests? Like, are we attractive to pull staff in these lateral recruitments over? You know, what is, or is housing like a big enough implication where that doesn't function in that way? And like, what are the effects on the other forests? You guys are all trying to show limited opportunities to staff your positions.
I think on balance, we are not very effective at attracting folks, and historically, we've demonstrated, something. I think Scott Fitzwilliams reported more than half of our job offers ultimately were declined once people got over the initial enthusiasm and started looking at the realities of living in one of the really expensive forest communities. So we haven't been very good at attracting people. I think I can say without exception, when we hire somebody for an internal lateral move, they're taking a functional pay cut, whether that's a real dollar pay cut or in terms of, the discretionary money they'll have left over after they find housing and all the rest. So people that we do recruit are coming because they really want to work on this forest, and that's a good thing. But there aren't enough of those people, so we're challenged now, and we'll continue to be on the recruiting front.
That's really helpful. Thank you. All right, if you wanted to continue with your update.
Sure thing. And Jeffrey, I also was thinking about visitor experience from the standpoint of our visitor information areas. And as you know, the Aspen office has been closed for a number of years to the public. However, we just had our new building in Carbondale. It was newly constructed. We just moved in just prior to October, and we're still working on the finishing touches for that space. One of the finishing touches is completing the visitor information area, where we included a new design for interpretive paneling for information for the public. We are trying to staff that area, and one of the ways that we're doing that right now is by we were able to get an extension of some of the folks who work in other departments during other times of the year, for example, trails or in the dispersed program, to work in our visitor information area so that it can be open to the public. So more to come on that, but we're working through the final details on opening that so that the public can come buy permits, get information on where to visit. They're in Carbondale as opposed to have to drive down to Rifle, which I believe is the closest office that's open right now. We're also working in partnership with Forest Conservancy and some of the other partners in the Valley, including the county, to develop a volunteer program so that individuals who would be wanting to or willing to volunteer come to the office to answer phones or interact with the public, to sell some of the items that we have available, that they would have the opportunity to support us and also support that visitor experience through volunteership. So that's still developing right now, but it's an amazing program that we are trying to get up and running, and hope to get a pilot program off the ground for that this year. So just wanted to note those two things before we move on as well.
One of the things we heard last year was concerns about capacity to manage volunteers. So what is that, given what you just said, what does that look like?
That's a very real thing. Anytime we bring on, volunteers, interns, it is difficult to have the capacity and the staffing already on board to manage that, even just schedules. So that's what we're partnering with the Forest Conservancy on, is that they would have an individual that they would bring on board to manage volunteers, but it would be an effective Aspen Sopris employee who would also interact with our staff, understand all the current program information, current policies, things like that, so that they would be able to take that on. That would have to be externally funded, and we're working through the Roaring Fork Outdoor Coalition to hopefully fund that position to be able to manage volunteers for our office. We're looking for a program that is reliable and sustainable, that we can use as a model into the future, because as we were just talking about, it's very difficult to recruit for these types of positions here in the Roaring Fork Valley due to the cost of living.
And we'll give you, as that comes up, we'll give you a bigger update on that, because we are going to help fund it for this year to try to get it up and running. Picken County Open Space and Trails will help, and hopefully we can find a way to sustainably fund this. And one of the ways is through the Roaring Fork Outdoor Coalition, is through the statewide Outdoor Opportunities Act that you'll hear about in a bit, is just trying to have the state help fund outdoor coalitions so we can do things like this for the foreseeable future. So it's a unique partnership, and the Forest Conservancy, is stepping up and working with other partners. But you're also working with the City of Aspen and Accra. Accra's a piece of this puzzle too.
Eagle County, Carbondale Chamber of Commerce. There's a number of folks that are interested in supporting this effort. So thank you, Gary. Before I move on to the Maroon Bells, I just want to pause and see if there's other questions or comments on that.
I was wondering if there was any change to the rollback on the, I forget what we called it, like the administrative lands or administrative properties use, when there was some opportunity there to kind of help convert with housing and partner with on housing, and then that program was stripped away. Is there any ability, are they going to
All your
reauthorize
administrative
that?
units, like the one in Willits.
Yeah.
Are you referring to opportunities to partner to develop housing on administrative parcels?
Yeah.
So there still is opportunity with
Okay.
respect to, you referred to it as enhanced use leasing, and that's under the Farm Bill. And there are projects, and I think, Brian, you could probably speak to the Dillon project a little bit more than I can. But there are projects on the forest that we are trying to move forward because we think it's a great opportunity to
So
partner
that's
with
been
communities.
preserved because there was some threat to that.
It's actually been more or less extended permanently by
Good.
incorporation into the Explore Act, which we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of yesterday, I think. So previously it was in the Farm Bill. Now it's in the Explore Act, and a little more secure in that way. We have, as I think you're aware, this one big project, which was the first of its kind in the nation to be signed under that previous Farm Bill authority on the Dillon district. And we just, right before I left to this meeting, had an extended conversation about that one. Just to be really frank, the challenge is just in the math. We need for the Forest Service interest to have units that don't price out our lowest paid employees and don't exclude our highest paid employees. So there's this window there that works for us, and then our partner, in this case the county, they have to be able to finance it and make it pay out over the long term. And we've really struggled to just make those numbers work. That'll probably be a challenge everywhere we operate, but in addition to some opportunities here on the Aspen-Sopris district, we're looking at some smaller scale things adjacent to Minturn and some other locales where we have highly desirable properties that, exactly as the authority specifies. I mean, they don't meet a particular conservation need, but there's a tremendous public interest in providing some affordable housing. So it's a great
The public interest
opportunity.
need is people managing the forest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Francie.
what I was going to ask. So is it exclusively for Forest Service employees that these projects are done? Do you get to save some for Forest Service employees?
Yeah, there's no requirement that we provide housing for our staff, but in the case of the Dillon project and a sort of a model I can see working elsewhere, we lease the land we have the authority to do it up to 99 years now under the Explore Act, and the value of that lease is written off in the in-kind contribution that the developer provides in some housing for our employees. So that's the math that we're trying to balance out. They build something for us, and we write off the value of the lease over the term of the contract.
Yeah, because that would make a difference in attracting people to
Yeah.
our areas.
Absolutely, that's it. That's the number one thing we in the law enforcement world. Our regional head of law enforcement said he can get us 2 new people tomorrow if we have a place to house them. But the problem is they can't pay them enough to live in the places we need them to operate out of. So we have many very stark examples of housing being the number one limiting factor.
Yeah.
Do you have that in, like in a succinct document or anything like that? I guess I'm wondering if this is an opportunity to kind of bring, to APSHA for a preferential lottery placement like we've done with some of our other, like first responders and childcare workers and things like that.
I believe that over on the Dillon side, I've heard, I can't confirm this, that might be something that has been modeled over there. And if there's an opportunity here, I mean, that would be a benefit to folks who are trying to
Well,
recruit.
Francie and I sit on the board. We can float the idea and assess if there's interest hearing a more robust presentation from you. It would have to be a rule change that whole board supports. But what it would do is just give a preferential placement in a lottery for affordable housing in Pickens County is how that would operate. And we do that for first responders and I think childcare as well.
It would still be part of the lottery, so there isn't
Right.
like a guarantee or anything, but you get more chances in the lottery.
Yep.
That's great.
Something to consider, a way we might be able to help. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay,
What else?
so
Keep going.
I'll move on to the maroon
A
bells.
few more minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about 2025. In 2025, our district in particular lost 45% of our staff. So we were operating with less folks than we were in prior years. And there were some changes that we made to the operations at the Maroon Bells, and some of that was through support of others. For example, in prior years, we had been able to hire seasonal employees. We typically brought on around 10 seasonal employees, but due to the budget scenario that the Forest Service is in, we were not able to hire seasonals last year. So we leaned heavily on our Rocky Mountain Youth Corps partnership that we have, and we're able to bring in 2 sets of crews that the second one was actually funded by the city of Aspen. To be able to sustain that area in operations throughout the year. We also lost the Maroon Bells manager this last year to the DRP, Deferred Resignation Program. So we brought over a manager from the Dillon Ranger District who worked as a NEPA specialist. So that individual stepped in, left their NEPA job and left Dillon, moved over here and ran the Maroon Bells and worked for Kendra Head, who's sitting here behind me, during the 2025 season. So this ability to have somebody that the county is funding in 2026 is just so paramount, and we so appreciate the support. That'll allow us to have somebody that can lead the crew, have continuity of operations. They can have the support of Forest Service staff, provide that experience to the public that we desire to provide them. And it's really going to be an amazing partnership, not only for both of our entities, but for the public as well, and the resource. So thank you very much for the ability to bring that individual on and to support staffing at our district yet again. We're looking again this year at bringing on Rocky Mountain Youth Corps employees as well, probably 2 crews. Still looking at our funding situation to determine what that looks like for being able to fund both of those crews ourselves, but very optimistic about this next year. Another change that we made last year was having the contractor that runs the reservation system, H2O. They sat at the welcome station last year instead of having Forest Service staff it. And they work under contract with RAFTA, another one of our amazing partners in that space. And and we'll be doing the same next year. So changing the operations up there a little bit, just based on the resources that we have available and adjusting based on what we're seeing the need to be on the ground.
Do you think you'll be able to open the visitor center or the Flintstone bathrooms? I forget what we call those.
Yeah, we are, so the Maroon Bells Information Center and the bunker is what we call it,
Okay.
is run off of hydroelectric power, and that takes a lot of investment of time from the staff and personnel up there to ensure that that system is operating, that if there's water flowing or water not flowing, we have to change operations, including changes in the shuttle and bus and where that drops off. So we hope this year through partnership with the county that we're able to open up the Maroon Bells Information Center and the bunker. And then we also hope to have the water system up and running there as well. So we're working towards those things. And it really comes down to having that support from a resource standpoint to get those things open.
Well, and I also want to add the city of Aspen is going to help us do this too. Matt Kuhn, who's the director of the city parks and open space, used to run that up there for the Forest Service back when he was a Forest Service employee.
Oh.
And the city is, he's going to come help, and we're going to try really hard to get this whole thing going. And so I just wanted to shout out to the city too, because they're going to be a great partner, because there's water testing, there's a lot of other things that we need to happen, and the city has a lot of that expertise, and potentially is going to help out on there. So it's going to take a village. I've talked to ACES and the Forest Conservancy, and everyone's really excited about this year. I'm hoping that we can fulfill all this excitement and actually make it so that we could drop people off in a place that has sufficient bathrooms, has water, has electricity, and has that visitor center. ACES would be very excited to be back in that visitor center because they could not use that last year. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna take a village, but I think the village is there to make it happen. So.
Okay, great. Any last questions? Jeffrey?
So part of what we heard a year ago was we were concerned about trail maintenance, fell trees, and sort of lack of resources to continue to maintain. Again, I'll go back to the experience, but what did we see in 25? What are we going to do better in 26?
Yeah, what happened in 25 is that we were able to partner with a number of groups here in the Valley, RFMBA, Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, et cetera, to be able to get actually a lot of trail work done in 2025. We had a really good year where we had some pretty important projects with bridges being installed and work that was done through contract in the backcountry. So we had a great year in 2025 despite the challenges that we faced with staffing, and a lot of that was due to the compounding nature of working with partners here in the Valley. Nothing that we do could be done without the support of some of the other entities that we work here with.
Thank you.
Yep.
Francie, any last questions?
I don't think so right now, but thank you guys so much.
Any last words? Thank you for coming.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right, we are very happy to be partners and appreciate all the work you all do. And please tell all of your staff at every level that, because we rely on them so much, and rely on you all so much here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck to
Very-
good luck to you guys.
Thanks. All right, we are going to move on to a conversation about our dispatch center, which is under construction. McKenna, can you come on up? We'll change. Who's coming up here? Kevin? Brett? I see Jeff Kruger. Can you promote Jeff, please? It's Ann. Hi.
Got a whole
Come on up,
contingent.
folks.
Yes, and we have Jeff Kruger online. Okay, did you promote me?
That's a pretty sweater, Ann.
Oh, okay, well, that's fine. I'm doing a presentation.
Hello. Okay. Okay. Thank you. That picture's so last week, Jeff. You need a new one with snow.
You're right. I need to update my background. Sorry.
I'm just
We don't have much snow, so
Yeah,
sorry.
it
Yeah.
kind of looks like that now.
It kind of looks
Maybe.
appropriate.
Yeah. All right, who should I turn it over to? Ryan, you want to kick us off and lead the order of events here?
Introduce while I get the presentation figured out.
That sounds great.
And we
Well-
can run over a little bit, but I know we didn't give you guys a ton of time.
Yes. Now, the purpose of this is to really update the board on where we are with the dispatch center. As you'll see with a little bit more detail here in a few moments, we're nearly complete with the shell, the core and shell of the project, and we have a permit into Eagle County for the tenant improvement. So that's finishing out the inside of that building, which is a second-story building. And there's a few other steps like getting through condominiumization that still needs to happen. But you'll see it's very much a separate building altogether, separate utilities, and that will have some implication on the size of the building ultimately that we landed on up there. But this is really a partnership between Pitkin County and several of the two fire districts, several of the municipalities that lean on this dispatch center for emergency services. So a lot of work has been done, and I think from today you'll hear a little bit from Brett on kind of why we built this out the way that we did, kind of current best practices. Ann will kick us off with a little bit of background, and Jeff Kruger, who's been helping us along the way with the sort of project management, as well as some details on things that a dispatch center needs. And so I think he's been a real big help for us. So you'll hear from him as well. And then Joe is sitting up here with us, and he is our project manager, works with Wember, and so he's going to give us a hand with any supporting questions.
Is
you all
Wember
might have.
owner's rep or contractor?
Owners
Okay.
rep. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well.
So with that, are you
Sure,
ready
I'll
to kick off?
I'll kick it off. This is our large agenda, which we hope to cover in 30 minutes. The AIS had a lot more detail in it. We really wanted to provide a soup to nuts background of everything that's gone on. And so we're not going to go over everything that's in the AIS, but just hit some of the high points and answer any of your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett, who's going to give a little bit of background on why we needed a new facility.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Well, I think if we go way back, if you go next door, they have the little bat signal. I don't know if you've seen that at the PD over there. That we used to be in a little closet at the PD. Obviously not at that location. And then I think we moved one other place before we moved below the jail. But we were below the jail then for the majority of our time up to about 10 years ago when an inmate flooded the jail by activating the sprinkler system and forced us to move ahead of time. And I say us, but that was like 2 months before I started. But Jeff was there and got to experience that and moved us over to North 40 lickety-split, luckily. But that leads us to North 40, where we are today and have been for the last 10 years. And that has served us well. It's been a great partnership with them. But it has some deficiencies as far as security, growth. You really don't want your main comm center to be right next to your major airport or your major highway. or have a glass facade exposing all your dispatchers. And then as technology has advanced, we've been limited in what we could do with the kind of technology that we need in the center today in that existing structure. So all that said, about 5 years ago, the COM board commissioned a assessment, basically, report, consultant report, and one of the points that came out of it was the recommendation for a new center. This was 21, right as COVID was hitting, and they estimated 13,000 square foot at $10 million at that time. Now we are at about 5,500 square feet at close to 10 million. So, 5 years make a difference, especially with the way things have gone since COVID. But what we've done since then is made it economical, even though it doesn't seem that way, in the sense that we don't need 13,000 square feet anymore. That was based on kind of an old model that you have one built for stout comm center that has got to be redundant, resilient, got to withstand earthquakes and lightning strikes and all that stuff, and all of your equipment and dispatchers are there. Since then, we've developed a model that we call satellite centers, which I think you guys are familiar with, that we've kind of spread out our infrastructure and our dispatchers to several different locations, which reduces the need for all that redundancy to be in one building, and it reduces the footprint, obviously, because you've got equipment and dispatchers in different places. So using that model, we determined that we would need between 4,000 and 5,000 square feet of usable space for our new center. And to go along with this, the lease that we have with with Aspen Fire Protection expired in February of 26. So we knew something was coming. We've been looking for about 5 years for a space. And serendipitously, the Riffer space became available, and Chief Thompson offered that up to us as a second floor over his admin with a new build there. We had looked at different places along the valley. Basalt PD's considering building a new space. We were looking at that. There was talk of a public safety complex that may or may not come to fruition, or looking at current county assets that we could move into. This, like I said, worked out best. Timing was right, the square footage was right, and we were able to build a purpose-built facility that really meets our needs and the needs of our dispatchers, most importantly, and get it done almost by the time that we were supposed to be out. So that's kind of the history, how we got here. Since that time, we partnered with Roaring Fork Fire. Ann and Joe and Jeff have worked really hard to get through the IGAs, the condominiumization. Say that really fast because I can't say it that well. And it's been a really good partnership, and it looks like by the end of this year, we may have our own purpose-built facility, which is important because not only it's built to suit all of our needs now, it's also built dispatcher-centric, which is kind of the way we've really developed our dispatch center in general, and I think is the main reason for our success in recent years on being able to retain and attract new dispatchers, because we try to make every decision around their health and wellness, their efficiencies, their stress levels, and a lot of this building was designed with all of that in mind. Plus, we don't have to worry about getting kicked out at some point. It's going to be ours, which is a feeling we've never had before, so I'm excited for that.
Thanks. Hand it over to Jeff unless there are any questions from the board on how we got here.
Not seeing any yet.
All right. Jeff, do you want to
Hey.
take it away?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Brett. I'm kind of working on the construction and design phases related to the dispatch center. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up with everything that's going on there. But I just wanted to introduce our team first and foremost. We've developed an organization for success. So we are, of course, partnering with Roaring Fork Fire and Rescue. Roaring Fork Fire and Rescue, of course, has a big presence in Pickens County. They have actually 4 fire stations within Pickens County, but their region spans Pickens County, Eagle County, and some of Garfield County. This happens to be Station 42 in Eagle County, and we won't hold that against them. But this is just turning out to be a great partnership. Scott Thompson, Chief Thompson, is actually leading it from the Roaring Fork Fire side. We've got a great team on the Pickens County side. We are using Wember as our owner rep for both parties. And we're also using the same architecture firm as well as the same general contractor in order to get efficiencies and scale. We can move on. And this diagram really shows the conceptual diagram of the Roaring Fork Fire Station 42 redevelopment. The redevelopment actually sits on 5 acres. It includes a remodel as well as of their existing vehicle bay. It also includes a remodel of their existing fire station. It includes an addition, which is on the very left, of a new vehicle and maintenance bay, which is about 10,000 square feet. And it also includes a new addition to the backside, which was originally going to be a single story, which was just to house their office and admin buildings, which was going to be around 4,000 square feet. Next slide. So the dispatch center, of course, Scott approached us about an opportunity, which Brett just expanded on. This opportunity is to include a 2nd-story addition on top of their office admin building. We will then comprise the entire 2nd floor of that addition. That addition is about 4,200 square feet. I'll go into more details on the actual square footage in another slide, but that piece is an entire 2nd floor. Next slide, please. This is the elevation drawing showing the office admin addition at Station 42. Again, we're the 2nd floor. The very top is looking from the north side. The bottom is looking from the south side. Next slide. This is the site plan. We're actually on the north-facing side of the property development. JW Road is on the very front. So as you approach, you actually go through the parking lot over to the backside. There's plenty of parking now with this new addition, and it's removed. It's out of sight. It's quiet. It's an ideal location for a 911 dispatch center. Next slide. So this is more detail on the actual floor plan. I thought it would be good to actually compare what we have at North 40 today versus what we're going to have in the future. One of the big areas is that we're increasing operational space. Right now, today, North 40 can support 5 consoles. We have no more growth within our North 40 complex. This new operations floor will support 8 dispatch consoles. We initially planned to put in 6, and so we'll have a growth opportunity for 2 more going forward. We don't have that today. Another big area that you'll see is on office space. We currently have a single office at North 40 today. This is just not adequate for county employees. We have a dispatch director, we have an operations manager, we have IT personnel, we have supervisors that all need office space. that they don't have today. So that's a big change from the North 40 location. We're also adding a decompression space, and I'll go over that in a couple more slides. But the decompression space is really a zone for dispatchers to unwind from their fatigue, and I'll kind of go over that later. And also, overall, the second floor is about 4,200 square feet. There's been some discussion on how did we go from 4,000 square feet to 5,550 square feet, and this kind of explains that. Again, the dispatch center is about 4,200 square feet, but going vertical, we need stairs and elevator. So that space on the very right shows the second and first floor for stairs and elevator. They comprise about 944 square feet. And we also have some requirements because of a dispatch center in terms of all of our telecommunication, electrical, grounding related items that require space on that first floor. And that amounts to 386 square feet. When you combine those two, that kind of makes up that difference between what was originally projected at 44,000 square feet roughly to where we are today. Next slide. We seem to be missing a slide. That's kind of
Let's see.
I could just talk to it, but yeah, there's a slide missing in this packet, and I wanted to talk about
It's in our packet.
You have it in your
our
packet?
current.
Page 13 in our packet.
I guess they have it in their packet. It's just the one I have off the drive
Okay.
doesn't have it.
Yeah, there's a slide in there, and I wanted to really kind of discuss the purpose of the decompression space. A 911 dispatch operator is one of the most stressful jobs out there. It involves traumatic life events, fatigue, and a high cognitive workload on a daily basis. This in turn can actually lead to burnout and in some cases PTSD. I know that Brett and some of his staff have recently toured some 911 dispatch centers on the Front Range. And what we're seeing not only in the Front Range is within the 911 community, but in general, nationally, is a need to have a decompression space. And it would have been nice to see some of the previous pictures, and I'm sure you can see it in your packet. But Brett has actually converted his office space, the single office space that we have at North 40, into a decompression space. There's 2 futons in there, there's a TV. That particular space is used on a daily basis today. So this decompression space that we're suggesting going forward or recommending going forward, it's not an amenity. It's something for employee wellness. It's something to help with the fatigue associated with a 911 position job, and just general decompression. Also, just in the event that we have severe weather, our dispatch operators on they work shifts, and in some cases, if there's severe weather, they have to be at work. This is not a hybrid job. It can be difficult to get home during severe weather. So this space will help support that as well. But that relaxation space, these are just some conceptual diagrams. The one on the very top left just kind of shows some chairs along with a TV. And this is kind of what we intend to do in that space, as well as some on-site bunk beds and an on-site shower. Next slide. So the project is going to be in 3 phases. We're currently in phase 1. We're under contract. MW Golden is working towards this. Phase 1 includes the building exterior. So this is basically all the foundation, the utilities, the structure. The roof also includes our generator pad, but includes our weather barrier, windows, and doors. And you'll see kind of in that red dot where we are today. We anticipate this will be complete in kind of April, May timeframe. Phase 2 is the building interior. So this is the tenant improvement or the condominiumization piece. This includes all that, the interior framing, the mechanical, electrical, basically drywall, flooring, finishes. It also includes some of the unique items associated with the dispatch center, our lightning protection system, our generator, our UPS system. We do have a whole building UPS system. It includes fire suppression as well as access control. We're currently in negotiations right now on cost for this phase, but we anticipate construction to start in February, early February. And the third phase is the actual integration and move. And this is kind of where all the pieces of a dispatch center come together. It includes all the furnitures and consoles that make up a dispatch center, the monitors, all the systems for doing radio, telecommunication related calls, not only to the public, but to our first responders. It includes our CAD system, our 911 phone system. It includes network infrastructure, all the grounding that's required. And then lastly, it includes our North 40 move. And we anticipate that this all to be complete by the end of this year. Next slide. Just wanted to kind of throw in some photos of the construction and where we are in the phase 1 effort. This will give you an idea of really the complexity of a 911 dispatch center, just in terms of infrastructure. All the conduits you see here support our telecommunications, our electrical, our grounding related systems. This all had to be planned and detailed prior to construction. So yeah, you can just see a maze of conduits that are going into this building, and this is all for the 911 dispatch center. This is not for the fire station. And just to go back real quickly, we actually put together a 3D model just so we could visualize this of all the conduits, not only going into the building, but within the building itself. And this helped greatly in terms of the design effort. Next slide. These are more recent photos taken in December. You can see now that we've got weather barrier going on, the roof is on, the interior is now taking shape. So it's kind of nice to see the progress of where we are in really a fairly short amount of time, given that construction started in kind of the July of this year. So next slide. Interior finishes, this is really the interior palette. It's kind of a nice, warm, soothing palette. It's actually the same interior palette that the fire station is using. So you'll have that continuity whether you're downstairs or upstairs in the dispatch center. Next slide. And here's a little more detail on where we are in terms of schedule and milestones. Phase 1, you can see kind of the red dot as to where we are. We've completed the exterior. We're working on weather barrier. Next will be windows and doors, and final punch list and approval of the building exterior in the May timeframe. And for phase 2, this is the building interior. We actually completed the design documents. That was back in August. We've now completed the 100% construction documents, and we're out for permit. We anticipate getting our permit approved here in January, and with construction starting in February. And at that point, we'll be doing, of course, all the normal interior work, which includes framing, drywall, finishes, and trim. Phase 3, we anticipate starting probably August of this year. This is going to include a procurement phase. We've got our console and server room build out. And then finally, we have our North 40 move. Here's our project budget. This was put forward in a capital request that was approved by the board. Phase 1 is 4.1 million, phase 2 at 4.3. We do anticipate some phase 3 costs. This includes really the furniture consoles, kind of the server room racks and build out, the cabling associated with that. So for a total cost of 8.8 million. We are seeing, some construction costs seem to be holding a little bit steady. The biggest issue we've been seeing is in terms of mechanical and electrical costs. They continue to rise. We have kind of a limited vendor contractor pool within the valley we can pull from. So we're getting a limited number of bids in those areas, and that's really been the main concern in terms of our cost. We are doing a value engineering process as part of phase 2 to try to reduce these costs, and that effort's ongoing right now. The project financing, that's going to be done through certificates of participation. That's really going to be based on our current IGA agreement that we have with all public safety agencies and the percentages that they pay. Next slide. And I think finally we just want to talk about the assessment for residential use. I don't know, Ann, do you want to speak to this, or?
I can kick it off, but during the last meeting when I think dispatch came up, Commissioner Clapper asked us to look at the feasibility of perhaps using additional space in the center for a residential unit. So we had many discussions between, I think, all of our team members about how that might be done. And without going through in detail, but it would essentially, I think, we've obviously already gone through the design and permitting stage with Eagle County, and it is approved for public safety use, so we would need to go back and reopen the zoning and permitting. Also with Roaring Fork Fire Rescue IGA, because they're the ones that actually hold the permits, and then our IGA with them provides for the use of the facility to be for a dispatch center, not for any other use. So we would need to open up the IGAs there. Obviously, as you've seen in the photos, and as Jeff has described, there has been a large investment as needed and required for public safety facility. All of the utilities and the technology and the firewalls and so on is being constructed for the use for public safety. So for conversion to residential, it would require, I think, a lot of adjustments, as well as it wouldn't be very cost effective. And maybe Joe could speak to the cost side of things if there's any question, but on that. So we've sized it optimally, I think, for a dispatch center. So if we potentially converted part of it to residential use, we'd need to remove some of those spaces that we've described, such as the decompression and wellness rooms, bunk rooms. Right now, we're actually renting sleeping spaces in separate facility since we don't have bunk rooms at North 40. So we would need to continue to rent spaces outside of the dispatch center. And then just as regards to financing, our discussions with our municipal advisor, certificates of participation, would assume the single purpose public safety asset being the collateral. We haven't contemplated using a residence as a collateral for that. So they believe that it would complicate and potentially increase our costs in financing. So we just did some research there.
And I might just add to that, I had passed out to you all an email. I'd given Scott Thompson a call last week, and they are contemplating some residential use on the campus, as they're calling it. And so there could be a possibility there that we could participate with them in getting priority in one or more of the units there for those dispatchers or for other class of workers within the county, and that would be on site. And he's in the process of sort of starting that conversation with Eagle County. They're at the sort of beginning stages there, so nothing concrete yet, but it is their intention to build townhome style homes, so like family oriented townhomes there. So there is a possibility for housing outside of the building here. And I think the other important detail that you saw in here today was sort of this idea of it grew from 4,000 square feet or thereabouts to over 5,000 square feet. And so, therefore there might be some room to put a residential unit. But I think with the explanation from Jeff of we had to, the footprint increased because there was some additional space needed on the ground floor to accommodate utilities coming in. And then on the second floor, of course, a lot of space is eaten up for the 2 stairwells and the elevator. So the usable space is actually closer to that initial estimate that we had come up with.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm really happy with that, and I love the letter from Scott. I hope that works out. It's really great. And I think the way it's designed right now is fine the way it is. I don't have any problem with not having additional inside residential.
I'm just wondering, I could use some clarification. Where was the space before it went on the second floor?
Which space? As far as like stairs and all of that?
Yeah, like where did all of that programming live before it got put on the second floor?
Well, I think initially where that idea of, there's 4,000 square foot, that's when they were initially just doing offices. And that was for sort of fire department focus. There wasn't going to be a second floor. So they said, we have this amount of space available. And so we said, okay, well, great, that could serve our purposes. And then as we got into design, we realized, okay, there's going to be separate utilities coming in for both of these because it'll be condominiumized. So it's, totally separated there. So that requires additional space. You saw the conduit coming into this second floor, which takes up area, and those are in the form of like closets or rooms on the first floor, as I understand it. And so that kind of grew that space. And then as we, started to get into the design, then it's okay. You've got this 5,000 square feet. Oh, but there's a stairwell. There's 2 stairwells, and then an elevator. So. I think it was a bit of an evolution, and that initial conversation we had was, based on what they thought, what their initial office needs were for the fire department, and then as we got into it, it ended up being what it is today. So.
Did you have to go back to Eagle County to build it into a second floor building?
I'm not sure on the permitting, but you want to take that?
Yeah. I think that thing was on the whole time.
Make sure it's red.
All right, we're in good shape. So there was, I've been working with the fire station since that project started, and there was always a concept for a second floor because these conversations started a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I think just to summarize what Ryan was saying about that programmed space, admin, first floor, for Fire Station 42 was always about 4,200 square feet. We started working with dispatch, and we proved with a concept design that operational programmed square footage of about 4,200 was appropriate. It fit the conference room, it fit the offices, it fit the operations room, decompression room, everything. We said, okay, that's great. Stack one on top of the other, right? But when you do that, you have to add the vertical circulation. And because it's public safety, because it's commercial, it's not only a stairwell, It's a secondary means of egress, a bonus stairwell, and it's a commercial elevator.
So the
So
project
that's-
as built is what went through approvals,
Correct.
application and extent
Yeah.
at Eagle County.
And it's been, I dare say it's gone exactly as planned, because these conversations started, we identified the program, we made the core and shell, and this is well before we were even engaged in a contract with dispatch, and IGA rolled through, permitting rolled through, and we are under permit for what we're building right now with the goal of advancing straight into the finishes. So, yeah, that's a very concise version of how we got here, but it's been an amazing relationship. So I think it's working really well.
I think there was some misinterpretation that the project was redesigned at some point to add additional square footage. And what I'm hearing now is that's not the case.
No,
Okay, thank you.
no.
That's helpful. Great. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate the update on this. It's helpful to have detail when we're entering into a partnership on an $8 million project. Is the comms board still a citizen advisory board that we appoint members to?
No.
Okay. I can't
It's made
remember
up
when
of-
we dissolved that.
Since I've been here, it's been an agency representative, usually the chief of
Okay.
the 8 public safety agencies that we dispatch for.
Maybe I'm confusing it with the translator board.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right. Any further questions?
No, I would just
Nancy?
comment on the, I forget what you call it, not recovery place, where you go to, what? Yeah, that. You know, when I visited with Gabe at the ambulance center here in Aspen, their decompression center is really nice. They have an amazing kitchen in there that I think a lot of homeowners would crave. And I think it's pretty well established that with this kind of job, you have to have a place to chill. And I think it looks pretty modest, so I think it's great.
Thanks.
Okay. And I did check in with Patty. I know she had shared some of her comments, which she'd still love to see housing, but understands the discussion today. That's how I'll paraphrase her comments.
And I would add that part of our next steps that I've just briefly listed here, one of them is I've set a meeting with Chief Thompson and Ashley to explore potential opportunities on how we might partner together. So you would see if there was anything to come out of that, that would come back in a separate, set of review, approvals, projects, et cetera, but we're starting those conversations and looking forward to seeing how we might be able to partner on the 3/4 of an acre for housing. So,
Thank you.
Could I add one piece? I did speak with Patty yesterday morning as well, and she essentially echoed what you had said and further, I guess, mentioned as it related to the decompression space. I think that was sort of the space in question of could you have housing instead of the decompression, is could you sort of leave that unbuilt for now and maybe start a process of permitting to allow for housing to be built in that space, retroactively in the future. So she put that out there as a possibility for consideration for you all. So
Thank you. Further discussion? Jeffrey?
I think the one piece that's missing is given your aggressive timeline of completion in December of 26, you're not going to change your building type or your occupancy type at this point in time. And so the two things I think you guys did a great job of clarifying, the whole team did a great job of clarifying, was both you're not changing building type or occupancy, one, and two, the amount of space that you really need for vertical circulation. So to me, it sounds like from a fiduciary standpoint, it sounds like this is the proper use, whether it's through COP or whatever else, the proper use of time relative, or proper use of space relative to program. So thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So very quickly, I'll just go through what's coming up next, so you can just have an idea. Obviously, our existing center, we need to extend the lease, which Aspen Fire are very happy to do so, and Kevin's working on that. It's not a big deal. It's just just an administrative thing. The condominiumization is going to be moving forward once we get the survey completed, which is going to happen in the next few weeks, maybe. Yeah. That's needed in order for us to start the project financing piece of it. We'll also need to revise the IGA with Roaring Fork Fire beyond the construction phase. So in addition to, right now the IGA just speaks to the construction. We need to talk about kind of future shared costs, maintenance, parking, who's paying for the stripes and the flowers and all that stuff. So, and then, Brett will be continuing to do future space planning to make sure that we're providing the needed emergency communications dispatch center facilities for all of our agencies going forward. And then, as I mentioned, workforce housing opportunities, we'll start exploring those. So,
One final question. What is the satellite, what do the other satellites look like? Like, what's the condition of that?
That's a good question. So we have Southside and Basalt that we'll keep, probably through 27, even though we're in the new building. The plan is to, right now we have a small space in MRA that we'll use for Up Valley. And, still exploring maybe a different space if something else gets built. But we'll use that, and that's, so those two will kind of continue to operate as we build out the new center. The goal that I think I've talked about with you guys is to get one outside the infrastructure loop of the Roaring Fork Valley in South Glenwood Springs, West Glenwood Springs. And that would, the plan now is for that to be, we moved that to 28, right? Yeah. So as soon as we get this one done, get a year to settle it out, then, and if we do accomplish, once we stand up the Glenwood space, that would replace Southside because, Southside is really redundant at this point with the center in Elgibel. But we'll keep that one just for redundancy, resiliency, until we have that Glenwood space up and running.
Well, and I think just for further explanation, I thought the Glenwood space was interesting when you first introduced it to me, which is that it's physically on a different cable for communication. So if communications are cut in this valley, you still have communication to the outside world through fiber optic that way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Francie.
So would the whole south side building then become available for employee housing?
You have to talk to Jeff about that.
So the current setup is that it's within the commercial space that they exist. There is a housing unit.
Right.
It's a mixed use.
It's usually somebody who works for us, isn't it, in the building, in the same house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And so telecom is, mostly occupying that space with
Yeah, I've been
the
there.
dispatch folks in one room. So I don't know if that one room could be converted or you reconfigure there. But obviously that's a process in and of itself with the town of Basalt for retrofitting with 2 units in there versus the one.
All right, Jeff, anything else? Thanks for helping.
Nothing
with
else for
this.
me.
Okay. All right, thanks for all the detail. Appreciate this update. Clarified a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Forward to ribbon cutting. Okay. Sorry, we're running behind. Oh, Levi, you're here in the room. I didn't see you there. Welcome. I'll look to my fellow board members to request permission to run into our break. Unless, would you like to take one now and then we come back and give Levi extended time? We do have an interview at 2:45.
Fine with carrying on.
Okay.
I can talk really fast.
Thanks, Levi.
Good afternoon, Board. Levi Borst, Management Analyst here at Pickens County. I'm here with the first of what will likely be many legislative updates as the session kicks off next week.
Next week.
Next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. Do I have that date wrong?
Sounds
Anyway,
right.
that looks right. So anyway, as I said, January 14th, the 2026 legislative session opens for 120 days. And kind of from a structural perspective, I've dibsed time every other week with the board, just set aside for legislative updates. Of course, this can be legislation that's introduced, or we can also use this for any requests for advocacy that we might get, as we kind of outlined a process through our partners with COSN about a way to sort of streamline where the board wants to choose to advocate. So that's every 2 weeks starting today. And I think the first action we need to worry about are CCI proxy designations. And I think you all make distinctions amongst yourselves about who will be voting members for the different steering committees. But CCI likes to have a staff member as a proxy in the event that the assigned person isn't there to vote. So I checked with them as to whether or not we could leave our proxies in place from last year, and it needs to be an annual designation. And so by memory, I think Lindsay Maish was the Health and Human Services proxy, and then I was the proxy for the rest. And so I don't know what the board wants to do, but I've got some forms here that we have to have the chair sign, either the outgoing or incoming chair, depending on when we complete this, for who is a proxy for which committees. So I can leave that here when we're done today.
We usually do it as part of the committee assignments, which I think is the second item on the 14th.
Yep.
So I would sign it and then Jeffrey would take over, because that's when we flip.
I will provide these for that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Don't lose them.
Well, it's better to be prepared. January 28th and 29th, we have the Colorado Association of Ski Town Conference in Salida.
I need to know when we're going to Bozeman. I thought it was the 1st and 2nd of February.
Well, sorry. There had been some confusion about the airport. Sorry. We had been seeking some clarification with the airport tours and then who from the board was attending CAST. So we need to clarify that, and we'll get back to you.
I wrote to Amy a little while ago. I don't know if it got lost in the shuffle or, like days ago though.
Okay.
And I think regardless, Kara was planning to go, and I'm also planning to go, so we should have some representation if, Francie, you're not able.
I want to go, but if I have to go to Bozeman during that time, do you have it down when we're going?
I wrote down 29th and 30th.
29th and 30th?
Yeah.
And then Jackson's the 1st and 2nd?
I wrote Jackson would be 2nd and 3rd.
Bozeman is the...
It's chilly.
Okay.
I wrote down Bozeman 29th and 30th of January, Jackson Hole 2nd and 3rd of February.
Yeah, well, that definitely conflicts. So, I guess I'll just bow out.
CAST, airport. Anyway.
Well, I've been to Bozeman.
Following that, on February 6th are the kickoffs for the CCI steering committee meetings. And that first meeting is in Denver, and it has a legislative breakfast attached to it. And Jeffrey, you and I spoke about that just super briefly. I don't know if we want to make a point to be present for that and then attend the steering committee meetings in person. I think it's always good to be in the room if we can be.
That's the one where they just stand around the rotunda and shake hands? Okay. It's fun. Good thing to go to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
shake
definitely
hands.
don't want to do that. No question about it. I saw that from Kiernan and I was like, no.
I at least said maybe.
Yeah, I'm a maybe.
February 21st to 24th is the NACO Legislative Conference. I think Patty is usually our representative with NACO. And I don't know if that's changing with committee assignments. So
It's not.
it stays the same. And then the last two items on upcoming attractions are two hyperlinks, and I'll share this with the board after this presentation. And one is a federal legislative tracker through our tracking software. Right now there are 8 pieces of legislation on there, things like GORP and SHRED and whatever else we've advocated on or shown interested in, along with some staff notes of advocacy that we've already performed. And then the second is a policy setting tracker that we spoke about maybe 5 months ago that just has some board discussions, like the discussions that we have in these legislative updates, and it has a federal and a state tab. Both are live documents, so you can click on them today, and then if I make updates tomorrow, you can click again and they'll be reflected in that link. So anytime you can't sleep, check out that federal legislative tracker, and I can help you out.
That's available to us through the packet or an email from you, or both?
I will share this presentation with you, so it'll be in your email and
Okay,
then a
that'd be
shared
great.
document also. So with that, I'll just start to jump in on a few of the issues that we know are coming or that are already in progress. This is a Wildlife Road Crossing Act reauthorization, which is a federal piece of legislation. I know everybody's favorite topic right now. This is from a representative from Montana and also California, a bipartisan piece of legislation that changes this act from a pilot to a permanent authorized program. And so what it does is it annualizes a $200 million per fiscal year allocation to, they describe it as construction or maintenance of infrastructure, and I didn't delve any further into it to see if that means fences, or if it means crossings, or if it means bridges, or what all it means. But it changes that pilot into a permanent program. It also ensures that unobligated funds remain available until they're used, so they shouldn't lose anything between fiscal years. Now the point of this, what's the ask, is this came to us through Cecily and through Commissioner Poshman, who obviously have a passion on the topic. And their ask, well, initially from Cecily, was to have Pickens County reach out to Representative Hurd and encourage co-sponsorship of this bill. So we, kind of following that protocol again with Cozen, Kara reached out to Cozen to see what the risks were, what the benefits were, and how valuable it would be for our outreach to take place. And they shared that the bill probably wouldn't advance on its own, but it would be part of a larger surface transportation reauthorization coming some point after the first of the year, so anytime now. They also shared Hurd is on that committee, committee of jurisdiction for that piece of legislation, so endorsing this bill and reaching out to Rep. Hurd could definitely be worthwhile. So I guess the question for the board there is if we would like to reach out to Representative Hurd, and if so, we can definitely, I can write a letter, we can reach out in person. Anybody who's got a relationship, certainly welcome to exercise that.
Francie.
Well, I would like to support this bill, but we're never going to get any money because it's from the feds and we're already losing billions. So it'll go maybe to Montana.
I think they definitely prioritize interstate highways with a lot of this money, but it's not clear to me how we would apply or receive any of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, I see your hand.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I've been monitoring. I would say, yes, let's do endorse this and support Hurd if he decides to do the right thing with this. And it can't hurt for us to be supportive and also to be, cross the aisle, so to speak. If we can support those guys, perhaps they'll support us further down the road. And I'm not going to make any assumptions about what happens. Thanks.
Did Patty give you comments? She told me yesterday she was going to, but I didn't
Yeah, we
receive
got it.
any.
They were
did I?
forwarded.
Yeah, we got
I
it.
can bring them up real quick.
Go
ahead.
Her concern is that, do we really want to put something forward to the Department of Transportation at the same time that we're trying to build an airport and get money from the Department of Transportation for that? So she doesn't want the priority to be this rather than that. If I'm not mistaken, that is my understanding of why she's concerned about this.
I can add some more specifics. So I think following on what sorry, she's not even here and I did it.
I'm getting used to it.
Following up on what Francie said, her suggestion is that the BoCC requests staff to draft a acceptable letter for you all to review, and then also to probably run that by COSN if you all wanted to, and then bring that back to the board for review of what that letter would look like and timing for moving forward, and that she would also take that draft to NACO in February.
Sure, that's fine. I thought we're going after money that's going to run out this year. So the reauthorization of this year is for future years out. So I'm not convinced there's necessarily a conflict, but I think that's clarity we can request, right?
Yep.
What is a maker bill?
I think it's like a dibs bill, so it can be included, like dibsing, just a placeholder so that it can be included in a larger bill.
Okay.
What's a dibs? Oh, man. I wasn't ready for that.
Just go hang out with your grandkids for an hour and you'll figure it out. Okay, keep moving.
Right. Keep Colorado Wild, vulnerable road user concept. I know this is also everyone's favorite topic of what is a vulnerable road user. Generally, somebody who uses the roadways that doesn't have the protection of a shell of a vehicle or within a vehicle. So that's wheelchairs, bicyclists, pedestrians, rollerbladers, etc.
Rollerbladers. They're still rollerblading out there, huh?
Oh, yeah. So Senator Roberts.
I almost hit one in Denver last week. In fact, it was like pitch black and the guy was in the middle of the road.
Oh, God.
Not wearing clothes. Wow. Like, what's happening here?
Wasn't Benny?
Not from up here.
Oh.
Somebody else. So yes, there are still some.
Senator Roberts' proposal, following up on some of our last year and the year before efforts that have been unsuccessful in this space. Simply, he wants to add $5 to the Keep Colorado Wild Vehicle Registration Program. So, of course, that's an individual vehicle registration add-on that individual users can opt in or out of. And this would add $5 to that. So, last year, fiscal year 25, 1.5 million vehicles, give or take, in Colorado opted in. So if you do the math, that's not a ton of money. If you figure that's, what, $7.5 million? It's not nothing, but it's not a ton of money.
They opted in for Keep Colorado Wild or for this?
It's both or neither. And so if you go to register your vehicle, you would say yes or no, and it would include Keep Colorado Wild and the vulnerable road user, or you would say no to both. So I don't think you get
You say one, yes to one and no to the other?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So that's a concept that's coming. We haven't seen a bill draft. I guess this is kind of just more for information. We'll have a better idea on how those funds get spent if the bill passes once we see a draft, and if there are any matching requirements or what all that starts to look like.
And is it just for like state roads?
The last versions applied to county roads also.
Like, what are they going to do? We don't know.
Anything from bike paths to signals for pedestrian crossings or anything that would make it safer for those users.
Could be very helpful right here on Main Street.
You know, the roundabout in Carbondale, before they put in the flashing signals for crossing there, was so incredibly dangerous and scary because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas and you couldn't see pedestrians. They'd it was just terrible. And then they put in those flashing yellow lights. It changed everything. Mm-hmm. And so
good.
They are effective.
Yes.
Moving on, fee-bait legislative concept. This comes from the Colorado Energy Office. I put way too much information in your packet about this, I think, but the short of it is that it would impose a fee on new internal combustion engine vehicle sales and collect that fee and disperse it to new electric vehicle sales, so essentially feeing from one and subsidizing the other. The Energy Office is planning to make this an opt-in by county program. And so individual counties can either opt in or opt out. I asked about the possibility of a statewide program, and I think that's less palatable politically, so they chose to do this. I think some of the big concerns are feasibility of the program. Colorado Energy Office would manage the funds through an enterprise and either refund people directly or send it to dealerships, which would then rebate the cost at the time of sale. So it would be collected at the time of registration, go through the energy office, then back to the dealership for disbursement.
What's the size of the fee?
Well, that they've been mum on that so far. We haven't heard how big the fee is or what sort of bogey they're looking to cover. So I don't know how big the fee would be, how big the rebate would be. They haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of dollars and cents yet. And there are obviously some equity concerns. I think if I buy a new vehicle for $23,000, should it really be subsidizing a $100,000 EV sale? I think there are some concerns there that haven't been fully addressed. We don't have draft legislation here yet either, so I don't know how those guardrails could potentially come into place.
Okay.
But it's an interesting program. There was mention of some of the startup costs being covered by an accelerator grant. I think the deadline for that was November 15th, and we weren't prepared to put our name on that grant application at that time, so we're just going to kind of monitor this, and if the legislation looks like something we want to opt in, if it passes, we can cross that bridge then.
We as a county, not CCI.
Correct. And this, the CEO, Colorado Energy Office, is the outfit that put that forward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just an update on Regulation 31, which was a rulemaking regarding landfill methane gas emissions. This is a slide that you all have seen before when Tyler and Brian, or Tyler for sure, was here. And we spoke about some of the waste in place, calculated methane emissions, surface emission monitoring, and some potential infrastructure that we could have to add if we cross above certain levels of methane emission. So this is all old news. We're above the 450,000 ton limit. The calculation is we would have to start surface monitoring, and if we fail, then we would need to install some sort of gas collection system. And the good news is during the rulemaking we were granted, all government-owned and operated landfills were granted a 3-year extension on the rulemaking. So now we've got until 2029 before we really have to worry about this critically. The landfill's already on it. I spoke to Brian this morning, so they're working on what comes next from their perspective. But I just wanted to follow up on a prior conversation we had about how immediate the financial threat could be. Then finally, 3 failures with the surface emissions monitoring would trigger the gas collection system. So those were 2 main updates that came out of the rulemaking, which I think finalized December 17th, somewhere in there. Sorry, I'm kind of blitzing through this, so just...
Yeah, I'm just looking to Kara. Is there any incorporation of future potential gas collection in our future design? Or at least the portions of the landfill that are being opened?
I would need to follow up. I know that when they were initially looking through design, they were looking at it through the lens of this coming forward as well. But we probably need to follow up on what that would be as they're coming to 100% design. So we'll get back to you.
I just don't know if it's something to consider, at this stage of design, or if retrofit is just as feasible. Thanks.
From what I remember Tyler saying, the new sections of landfill are so much easier to accommodate these systems retroactively than the original parts. So maybe it's just basic construction has improved to the point that they seem to think it's easier with the newly constructed part. We'll follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Illegal wildlife harvesting. Again, I'll try to be as quick as I can with this. Title 33 allows Parks and Wildlife kind of limited authority in how they enforce unlawful hunting, illegal hunting. So we've got species, public or private land, sex, season, and manner of take. Unfortunately, doesn't make a huge distinction as to whether or not land is owned by the county, but county regulations close it to hunting. And so somebody could hunt on closed to hunting, open space and trails property, and not trigger a Title 33 violation enforceable by the Parks and Wildlife. So this comes from Eagle County. Apparently they've got a huge problem with that because somebody will illegally take an animal off of their open space and they get fined by county code, and they just consider that a pay to play. You pay the $500 fine or whatever it is, and you still keep the animal. There are no hunting license violations, and that's kind of the end of it. So this legislation looks to close that loophole where open space managed by a local government could close certain open space to hunting. So obviously there are some ramifications for us. I think we've had good luck with Parks and Wildlife enforcing on open space property so long as it's a violation of one of the things that's under their purview. But if it's a violation of closed to hunting open space, we haven't had awesome luck there. So Open Space and Trails is in full support of this. Haven't seen a draft, but we know it's coming. So now you've kind of seen first blush.
Greg, I see your hand.
Yeah, hey, thank you. I just want to say I think it would be smart and a good idea if we support Eagle County with this. And then clearly our open space board is in favor of it as well. And I can imagine this being an issue in Pitkin County at some point, or at least on lands that we have an interest in, like Three Meadows, for instance, which is in Eagle County. So I think I'd like to encourage our board to support this.
That would be my vote. I will.
Well, not having seen bill language, I think we can support the concept.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's all we can do for now. Also out of Eagle County, property tax proceedings. So this looks to clean up the property tax appeal process in a few ways. This looks to align state statute on penalties for providing false tax information as it relates to property tax proceedings with the other tax proceedings, like the penalties for providing false income tax or false sales tax. There are some pretty big sticks to discourage that. And with property tax, those same sticks are not in place. They are also looking to allow the county or the Board of Appeals to move these appeals into district court. And the reason being that a lot of the arguments for these appeals are complicated legal arguments. There's a lot more at stake and a lot more intricate concepts that need to be handled at a district court level as opposed to just a regular appeal. Third, arguably maybe most important, this would remove some disincentives to reasonable resolution. And by that, we collect the property tax, and then when we have to pay it back, we're required to pay interest on whatever funds we held. And currently, that provides 1% a month or 12% a year on whatever funds we hold until that process is complete. You can see below, 2020 to 2025, Pitkin County's paid about $224,000 in these interest-bearing refunds, which is not huge compared to, I think, what some other counties enjoy. So I think this came from, like, say, hypothetically, a shady commercial user would say that their lodge is not worth $20 million, it's worth $1 million. And then you have to pay the property tax, and then it gets refunded for whatever the final determination is. It ends up being 12% of that sum. And so our partners at Eagle County have really felt the pain of that in terms of how much money they paid. So again, no draft legislation yet, just a concept, but going through Rye, he supports all four of those prongs. And so we can look forward to seeing that come as we go forward.
I love bills like this, genuinely.
All right, unlawful conduct on public property. So this is an existing Title 18 criminal statute, but they're looking to modify it slightly. This is led by Boulder County. Larimer County is a big supporter as well. And this would reclassify only a certain number of infractions that occur on U.S. Forest Service or BLM property. These listed here: discharge of firearms, abandonment of vehicles, dumping trash 27 cubic feet, or use of a vehicle off a designated road. And the history behind this was when a lot of these misdemeanor 3 offenses got reclassified maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they went from misdemeanor 3 to petty offense, and petty offense also changed from a criminal violation to a civil infraction. So these items were essentially unenforceable, or if you could write the ticket, it cost more to write the ticket than you would get from the fine. And so this would reclassify those 4 offenses to misdemeanor 2, which would allow local law enforcement some more freedom to address those as they came up. And obviously, we can think maroon bells. If somebody's discharging a firearm on the nature walk around the lake, we probably don't want that, and it's probably warranted to be addressed with more than a petty offense civil infraction.
Greg.
Yeah, hi, Levi. I was just intrigued by the 27 cubic foot limit for dumping of trash. That's actually a lot of trash. And I'm just wondering, is there any, I don't understand the rationale behind that size measure, because that's a lot of
3
it.
by 3 by 3, right?
Yeah, the best that I could figure is that's a college dorm fridge, 3 by 3 by 3. And so if you think that maybe, is that the size of like one of those big bags, like a big trash
leaf
bag?
bag.
A body bag.
Big leaf body bag, nice.
Then
I'll get back
have
to you.
other criminal
There's
problems.
other
It's a great question, Greg. I don't know where they came up with that number, or if there's any leeway, or where they came up with that. I can find out all that I can.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to advocate, we could probably cut that by a third, If somebody drops a Coke can, I figure it's a violation.
I think we've still got littering, but that's still a petty offense, or it's a civil infraction. Yeah, 185411. And use of a vehicle off a designated road. I think those are all good things to give our local law enforcement some flexibility in at least addressing in a meaningful way. And I think they limited this list as it is, mostly because we're not trying to criminalize the unhoused for use of public lands. That's not really the intent here. I think the intent is just to clean up some problem behavior and be stewards of our land. The Sheriff's Office fully supports this, and the last bullet point I'd add is Boulder has had some conversations with some of their representatives who think that internal policy shifts might be able to be made to address this in the same way. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. If they can find meaningful resolution outside of a Title 18 statutory change, then we'll do that first. And if not, then this could still be on the books.
Levi, how many more bills do you have? Because we have a citizen board interview scheduled.
I don't know off the top of my head. Should I speed up?
Or I'm just wondering if you are able to hang tight and we can resume this conversation after we do our citizen board interview.
Sure.
Is that all right, board? I hate to have guests come.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to come back and discuss more of this because it's all important. And then Charlotte, we're going to pivot to the APSHA interview because I don't want to run over too long for people's time. Thanks, Levi. We'll get back to it in 10 minutes.
All right.
Just stop sharing here.
Thank you.
Do you want to come?
Oh, okay. I'll just put it right here. Hi.
Thanks, you.
Good afternoon.
Hi, welcome.
Charlotte Anderson, the manager's office. I'm here with Jacqueline Matthews, who's applied for a vacancy on the APSHA board. You all have interviewed several applicants, and this is the final interview for applicants. And hopefully we can have some discussion next week to kind of wrap this appointment up. But the city also has to make some decisions, and I don't think they're doing that until Monday.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you for applying.
Sure.
Generally, these are quick interviews. We'll invite you to tell us about yourself, what you know about the APSHA board, and why you'd like to apply and be on that board. And then we'll do a round robin with questions for you.
Okay.
And then, like Charlotte said, we'll have our own conversation about which applicants we want to appoint. And we'll see if that lines up with what the city has selected as well. And we may have a little bit of back and forth with them. And then we formally pass a resolution which will appoint that person for the term at hand, which I think in this one is 4 years, right? Or are we filling a?
Actually, this one would be assuming
Oh, John
Ward's position, which actually it'd be like a 3-month. But if you all want to do the 4-year term,
Got it.
when you
That's
make that
helpful.
choice, since we're so close to that April 1st date.
Okay.
That's up to you.
Good to know. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead and tell us about why you want to be on the APSHA board.
Okay. My name's Jacqueline Matthews. I've lived here for 20 years. I live in deed restricted housing in Woody Creek. I previously lived in Centennial. I'm a mortgage lender, so I do a lot of loans on deed restricted properties. And over the years, I just have kind of gained a lot of knowledge from a different angle and perspective. So I think that I have some helpful information and a different opinion or angle that maybe doesn't always get considered that could be helpful. So I would love to be involved because I've seen the benefits of it. I have the benefits of it living in the employee housing. I think the program's amazing. But I also do see some of the challenges from the other viewpoint. Like I said, as I'm trying to do loans in there and seeing some of these projects where there's litigation or any number of things that have come up over the years, and being able to help guide, through some of these things. And like I said, help maybe give a different angle for the board to help them consider different things or look at different options as we kind of try to continue it evolving with the town and the community's changes.
Okay. Wonderful. Questions for Jacqueline? Go around.
No, I'll just make a comment. I've been on the board for 5 years, but I am retiring this year.
Okay.
And are you taking my place?
Sure.
Is that what we decided? I think we did.
It's a fair trade.
And it is somewhat of a challenging board because it's people's homes, as you know.
Yes.
And also the policies are constantly being reviewed and trying to meet the needs of the community, but of course it doesn't always balance out, like the need of somebody who's worked here for 40 years and now is retired and wants to stay in their house versus somebody who's moved here a few years ago and needs housing, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So I will just point out that it is a bit challenging. It requires some homework. We meet most months, twice a month on Wednesday evenings here. And I just want to thank you for volunteering to serve. And just warning you, it's got some very thorny
I'm used to that.
issues.
Yeah. In my job, I kind of run into that a bit myself.
Right.
So it's.
And we are
it's-
losing John
yeah.
Ward, who's been has a banker's perspective.
Oh,
on
okay.
it.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
nice
it-
to have another finance
Yeah.
person applying.
Yeah. Perfect.
Can you add some more of the challenges outside of litigation? What else have you come across
With
in
APSHA
your current
specific-
role? Yeah.
Well, there's projects. I think affordability is a big one when we're dealing with a lot of the HOAs having to make sure they're capitalized to make sure we don't have deferred maintenance, which of course has been an issue for a lot of the projects. But with that, you look at some of these projects, and in order to ensure that they're capitalized, it means, the dues have to go up. Well, in some instances, those dues get really expensive. And when you have income caps for people, trying to keep it affordable, but yet making sure that we're collecting enough money to maintain these properties, trying to find that balance is sometimes difficult. Like, we have a lot of people who the HOA dues are more than their mortgage payment. And it's, no one likes that, obviously, but it's a needed thing. But do we need to look at income caps? Are things, following with what's happening in the, with the cost, do we need to change category 2s to category 3s? Are the income caps in line with what we're needing? So if we're saying somebody can only make $40,000, which I don't think there's any that low, but just for argument's sake, to live in these properties, but we have dues that are $1,700 a month, can that person ever really afford that unit? Have we made sure?
Places that have HOA dues of $1,700 a month?
Hunter Creek. Some of Hunter Creek. And that one's a bit of a unique complex since you have free market and deed restricted, which, but a lot of them, or you run into the special assessments. And, to your point about having people who are retired or on fixed income, how are they going to be able to cover special assessments, which these buildings, no building isn't built to be 100 years old, right? So at some point, there's going to have to be major investments into these buildings to maintain them. Well, when we have 20% of the homeowners in that complex that are maybe on fixed income, suddenly we're changing demographics in these buildings, and it affects the community, and how do we balance all of that? So those are some of the challenges I see. I don't have the answer. I have opinions and ideas, but I think there's a lot of people with really good ideas and opinions. And, even another good example is some of these pilot programs, which are amazing, Right Size. I think that's a great program. But I think one of the unforeseen things that hasn't really been talked about, a lot of the Right Size, I've been involved in the 3 in various capacities. A lot of those properties are being right-sized because the homeowner can't maintain that property. So the next person's taking it, and those properties already had deferred maintenance, and those properties are needing a lot of work, potentially. So trying to not have our inventory just become in disrepair, not just the condos, but the houses and all of the rest of it. So there's a lot of stuff, and again, it's changing. The buildings are getting older, then we have some that are being built. The demographic of this town is changing. Do we want, we have people who are retiring that are staying in here that are part of the community, but yet we have people, to your point, that are moving in and need to work in the community. How do we balance all of that? There's a lot, and it's not perfect, but it's a great system, and it just constantly needs to be tweaked, to your point, and reviewed as things change and evolve.
Thank you. It's nice to hear the mortgage banker not complain about monetary policy.
It's a lost cause. Control what I can control.
I appreciate your sense of nuance about it, because some of the challenges with APSHA is you pull a thread and you're not sure necessarily what some of the unintended consequences in the rest of the system are going to be. And so we are kind of constantly iterating. Are there things that you think APSHA is doing better at, in recent years, or, if you were to pick one thing you'd want to focus on, what would it be?
I think in general, I think the program's amazing. Like I said, I benefit from it. So I live in it and I see the benefits of it. It's necessary. As we all know, we would just be a resort without it. So I think most of what they do is right. I do think they have done a very good job over the years of the enforcement. 20 years ago, you'd hear the stories of, oh, I'm renting, someone's charging me some ridiculous rent, but it's deed restricted. You don't hear about that kind of stuff anymore. So I definitely think they've cleaned up a lot, and the enforcement it's functioning much better and much more the way it needs to be. Like I said, I think that it's going to be interesting over the next few years, because we need the housing. We need it for workforce, but we also need it for the community. How do you balance those two things? And we can't build our way out of this. There's only so much land. We don't want to consume it all. Like I said, these properties aren't built and intended to last for 100 years. So what will APSHA's role be as time goes on, as we have these properties that already are in existence, and we want to make sure they're maintained and continue to be there for the next generation and generation and generation? How do we make sure that people can afford it, and yet the properties are maintained so that they can keep moving forward? I think those are some of the challenges that need to start to be considered. I think we already are starting to see it. I think Centennial was a little bit of an example of that. I think Hunter Creek is a little bit of an example of that. Those are the older complexes. So I think those are the challenges ahead that I would like to kind of start to tackle or look at, because it's coming down the line.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Greg, let me check in with you. Are you still online with us? And do you have any questions?
Yes. Hi. Thank you. I'm listening. Sorry, Jacqueline, that I'm not there, but I'm following. And I was just wondering, have you thought about possible ways to improve the financial models for financing the housing system? Is there some way that might benefit the larger community in affordable housing, perhaps by keeping the money circulating locally? I'm just wondering. I thought people have come up and said, "Hey, why don't we have a credit union? Why don't we have some other mechanism for financing?" And as somebody in that industry, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
That is a big question. I think a lot of our local banks and then the options that exist. I mean, I work for a big bank. I worked for Wells Fargo for a number of years. There are a lot of options. Alpine does great, the local ones. The challenge is like going back to the affordability. When you get complexes that have issues with whatever it is, litigation, deferred maintenance, what have you, and they become, quote, unlendable per Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, people who want to buy in those complexes are being sent to the local banks. The great news is the local banks will lend in there, whereas in a normal, give the quotes to that, situation, a bank won't touch that. But our local banks are great at understanding the demand and the need, and they will lend. Now, the challenge is the risk. I mean, a bank is functioning on risk. So they'll lend, but the rate, again, you go back to the affordability. You're going to pay for it in rate. So, I think more than even just coming up with a bank and a credit union and specific programs, we really need to focus on making sure that these HOAs understand why it's so important to stay lendable, so to speak, to stay on the Fannie Mae good kid list, because it impacts those homeowners and it becomes really challenging for people to buy those properties. Either you have to have more money to put down, which is already really hard for people, and or your interest rate's impacted. I mean, some of the banks, to do some of these properties, they're charging 10, 12%. Well, that's really hard for, a person working anywhere, frankly. So I think that really we need to kind of focus in on how can we make sure that the units that we do have can stay in the pool of affordability so that people have options. It's just like, right, the economy in its whole, supply and demand. As long as we have multiple banks competing, it gives people options to help keep it more affordable. When you're down to one or two choices and your option is 10% or 11%, that kind of doesn't help keep it competitive. So that would be, I guess, where I would start. Beyond that, I don't know how I don't even know how you start a credit union. That's above my pay grade. I would be interested to know if we could get something like that,
Well,
but I think it'd be hard.
Thank you for your perspective on that. It's clearly you know a lot about this, and that's encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions for Jacqueline? No, we're thrilled you applied. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
And again, we'll
Thank you.
discuss, and Charlotte will keep in touch.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's invite Levi back up, and we'll keep crunching through legislation. Hey, thanks, Levi, for your patience and flexibility.
Of course. I think I just have two left and then kind of an open session. I think body bags are 36. They're like 3 foot by 7 or 8 foot, and if it's 2 feet tall, I think that would trigger it.
I hope you didn't Google that.
On the work network. All right, so just one of two that remain: Colorado Parks and Wildlife Outdoor Opportunity, Kazunite. Expand and organize the outdoor recreation opportunity management and planning capacity at Colorado Parks and Wildlife. That's kind of their official top line. This takes, again, from a pilot program or an executive order program from our current governor, funds which are funding things like Roaring Fork Outdoor Coalition, and moves them from an executive order kind of 1 or 2 time funding mechanisms to a perpetually funded program through legislation. Open space and trails, Gary is a huge advocate for this. He was psyched that it was coming forward and that we were going to talk about it briefly today. Of course, what we don't know is what the fiscal note looks like. And with the state's financial picture, where does that land? So just as a first sort of smattering of an idea, I think it's a great thing. But we'll see what the fine print looks like when it comes out.
That was my concern when I read this.
Mhm.
I wasn't totally clear on what it was trying to do based on the fact sheet, but thanks.
Yeah, I had a kind of a similar comment for Gary. I said, we've got a whole lot of bullet points and words here, but what is it actually going to do? And he just lit up. He's like, oh, we can keep funding this program, which is a really great thing. It keeps Parks and Wildlife involved from a bigger perspective in different private and public owners of property, water access, all sorts of things. So he's very excited.
Whose executive order?
Polis. So I think he's looking to keep this going beyond January.
Mm-hmm.
Greg.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thanks, Levi. I was concerned about this also because I had read the bullet points and it just seemed a little bit murky. Just what was the object here? But if Gary's a huge advocate, then I certainly want to support us staying on top of it and watching it. I'd love to understand if CPW gets increased authority or something from that, and if anything regarding their mission changes or their reach changes. So was just a little concerned, like, okay, why? But I think this does explain the why better. So for now, I think it's certainly worth supporting. Thanks.
Sure, and we'll get back to you all with more details as we figure out what the nuts and bolts of this legislation actually do and change.
I'm just wondering why DNR wouldn't want to keep this role instead of giving it to CPW. It seems like coordinating management planning among multiple facets that touch the outdoors would be like more DNR, and CPW would be a stakeholder within that, but I don't know. So I don't fully get it.
Well, they're under the same.
Right,
vision,
but like,
yeah.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the umbrella seems bigger than CPW.
Yeah.
So why give it to CPW instead of keep it for DNR?
Don't have that answer.
I don't know.
But I have a note about it.
Yeah, Kelly, that was my concern.
Okay.
Definitely. Just want to say I agree with you, Kelly. I did have some raised eyebrows. I was a little concerned that if it just becomes CPW's purview, are we limiting possibilities or are there unintended consequences to this? And Gary may be able to speak on that when it comes back around to us.
Mm-hmm.
He's certainly the expert. I know Carly's been really involved with tracking this also, so I think we can get a lot more information as it goes forward. And a human-bear conflict concept, also from Parks and Wildlife. It changes some of the enforcement authority for Parks and Wildlife to deal with human-bear conflicts. So almost all of that is food source related. This would remove the knowingly requirement and allow for negligence to be in place of human-bear conflicts left by food baiting or unsecured trash or things like that. It removes current language in statute that requires first-time offenders get a warning. So if something's egregious enough, that wildlife officer has the discretion to issue citation on a first offense. And it raises a penalty for the third or subsequent offenses from $2,000 to $5,000. I guess $2,000 was not enough of a deterrent. I'm not clear on if or how any of these might impact things like landfills, because I know we've got some overlap with bears at our landfill, so I don't know that.
A few bears there.
Yeah, a couple bears.
But are we being negligent in managing them per CPW?
Sure. And is that does that count as their definition of conflict or not? also remains to be seen.
Greg?
Yeah, thanks. I think those are good points. I was just trying to think of the times when we've been visited by bears. It was because they were trying to reach our bird feeders that were high above their ability to reach, and very, very rarely could they figure out how to take one. But if I want to feed hummingbirds that need to be fed because they arrive before the flowers are blooming, am I going to get a fine because it's a considered bait for bears? I'm a little nervous about this one. I think education is a huge component of this, and there probably should be an enforcement. But I'm hoping this isn't a hammer for, that's going to be a hammer on thumbtacks, or, a much more egregious, enforcement action when perhaps it doesn't require that. I don't know. It's worth learning more.
Yeah, I think the definitions are going to be really important in terms of what constitutes conflict. If that's a bear looking up at your 30-foot bird feeder, I don't know if that's the same thing as what they're after here, but we'll know more soon.
Have they ever messed with your bees?
No. But it's pretty well fortified. And then I just have an others slide at the end, just some things that are kind of on the radar, but we don't have a ton of information about. Obviously, the Long Bill Budget Hunger Games will be a big one. The Home Act, or Yes, in God's Backyard 2.0. We just got a draft on that, but I couldn't make the packet for this meeting. Protection of local land use, zoning, siting, solar siting, 1041 powers, things like that. Vacant home tax, which we also just got a draft from Margaret Bose at CAST, and I think CML is actually leading the charge on this. So that's going to be a really fun one to watch. Human Services redistricting. I'm sure not the person to speak with any authority or knowledge on that one, but that will also be very interesting. Tax increment financing for transit areas and housing. And then lastly, the ballot initiative for graduated income tax that CFI and some others are bringing forward, or hoping to bring forward. I think they're in the signature collection phase now. So then I would just open it to you all if there are other things.
I hope it passes in Colorado.
What does it do?
It changes our flat income tax into a more progressive income tax structure in the state, and it is being floated as a citizen-initiated petition for the 2026 ballot.
Has it have enough signatures yet?
They haven't been through title board, so they aren't circulating for signatures yet.
That's an interesting concept.
Gotta do it. Yeah. Anyway.
So if there are any other hot button topics the board has that I can add to my radar, we don't have a ton to really think about yet aside from advanced communications ahead of the session. So
I just have a little bookkeeping thing. I've looked through all my emails from Kiernan, and I don't see any scheduling for January or February. I have March and April. I don't have anything for January and February. You have the same problem, Kelly?
No, I just find that I find it easier to just go on their steering committee website and then create my own calendar holds.
Yeah. But he
they
sent
change
emails,
theirs all the
you know,
time.
for March and April, but, so if you have them for January and February, if you'd forward them to me, that'd be awesome.
I'll look.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Levi.
You bet. When you have this presentation, below this slide are the different legislative priorities of our member organizations like CAST, CCI, all that. So you can refer to those there just beneath the end of this. I didn't want to spend time going over them here. And then we'll see you in 2 weeks, and we can put together that draft letter for the wildlife reauthorization in the meantime.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate you checking in with the departments on their positions on these bills.
Thank you.
All right, would folks like to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll resume at 3:20 to run through future agendas and board open discussion before the airport meeting?
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, grassroots. Thank you. Suzanne, are you here for open discussion? Sorry. We've been running over a little, so we're gonna take. Good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just like, what do I look good from the top up?
Jeans always.
I
It's also, I
actually don't like jeans. I like leggings. They're so much.
don't have that option.
I know, I feel bad for guys. You can't wear skirts, which are so comfy. So I used to buy my ex dress pants. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Sorry, we're still on our break screen over here, Ann. Okay, great. Welcome back to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. Happy New Year, everyone. We are going to discuss future agendas, open discussion, and then move to a special meeting for a airport grant application. So let's buzz through future agendas real quick. Kara Silbernagel, do you have any?
The only one, and we can come back to this in the future, is following up when you all looked at your board calendar. Typically, the board does a retreat in February. So starting to look at dates in February, given, I'm not sure if Greg's on, my suggestion would be we can toss out a couple of dates to the board through a doodle poll and then come back to all of you and some broader topics on retreat planning. If you would prefer, we've been looking at Thursdays and Fridays as potential days in that February timeframe. There is airport visits on the 2nd and 3rd. Patty is out, just had it up, the 25th, the end of the month. So we're really looking at the middle of February, or probably would be what
RAFTA is on the 12th, Thursday the 12th.
Okay.
Do we need a multi-day?
We should talk about if we want to reserve some time for a multi-day, and we can come back with some potential topics for open discussion with the board.
Okay.
I do think we had discussed setting priorities that,
Yeah.
because we haven't really talked about that.
The items I've heard from the board was setting priorities, doing a look back and look ahead with all the directors for 2026, and then focusing on Healthy Community Fund goals and renewal for 2026 election.
And I do see on here the 5th and 6th are CCI meetings, steering committee meetings. So,
And 6 is at legislative breakfast.
I don't know. So it looks like 19th
I don't know
and
why.
20th.
I know. I don't know why we were thinking the 18th and 19th.
Instead of 19th and 20th?
Yeah, because we don't meet on the 18th.
We could look at the 18th and 19th.
I'm guessing Patty will be traveling on the 20th to go to NACO on the 21st. So that might be my
Why don't
initial suggestion.
can look at the 18th and 19th and come back to all of you. I know I had heard, in speaking with Jeffrey and others, that was good feedback on the ACES Hallam Lake location, if that was a location that we can look into and seeing their availability. Okay.
I like it, but I don't mind Mid Valley either.
Okay.
That is all.
Is that it for future agendas? Anyone else have any other future?
I will be absent the 20th and 21st at Colorado River District annual quarterly board meeting.
Okay.
Those are the meetings, though, that I can usually Zoom in from their offices in the afternoon. So it's all of Tuesday, and I might be at the whole meeting on Wednesday, but
We
definitely
don't meet Wednesday. We're back to 2nd and 4th Wednesdays.
Good.
not first and third anymore.
Great. I don't have any on my calendar for January. Did Charlotte send us some links? I thought I saw something, but then when I went looking for it, I didn't find it. Did you guys get those links from her or from Amy?
Yep. Believe
Was it from Amy or Charlotte?
No, I don't know. Let's see. They're on every.
There's nothing on my calendar for, well, let me see here. Maybe I'm just.
Mine is from Pitkin Zoom.
For the board meetings?
Yeah.
They're what?
From Pitkin
Oh, from
Zoom.
Pitkin Zoom. No wonder I
The
couldn't find them.
invitee.
Thank you.
I am drawing a blank on some things that I think were supposed to be added to these future agendas, but I will try and remember what they are before our 11 o'clock agenda meeting tomorrow. Other input? Greg, do you have any future agendas?
I was going to say, it looks like I'm going to be away the 8th and 9th. That's Thursday, and I'm sorry. Let me go to February. The 5th and the 6th. I'm going to be away, and I don't think that'll be a problem unless you wanted to schedule something then.
Okay, I think we were avoiding that for CCI legislative
Got it.
breakfast.
Okay, great.
I do know there's a couple items that we will be adding to noticing for next week, including the Western Slope leaders gathering in Glenwood Springs next week.
Oh, QQ wanted to come. Did we schedule that?
Yes, QQ has been added for February 10th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, board open discussion.
Okay, I met with, do you have something before I start?
Suzanne has something.
Sorry.
She's been waiting patiently. if
Yeah,
you
I'm
wanna
sorry.
hear her out.
I'm sorry, I was distracted and jumped
That's
in.
okay.
I apologize.
We have one, and I can hand it to Jeffrey more specifically, but we do have, there's been a request about the board covering the permit fees for the structure loss and rebuild at 472 Light Hill Road. And so we wanted to talk with the board during open discussion about if you were interested in covering those permit fee applications and what we've done in the past and from Suzanne's world, what that would look like.
Are these income challenged people?
So they are 50-plus year residents of Pitkin. The husband actually built the home that he raised 2 kids in, and basically the offer from Pitkin was to waive the permit fees as you're building the same house for the second time, or largely the same house, and we would do what we can to get you through the permitting process, through land use, as an administrative review, because it's largely the same size home. They lost the home in a structure fire. It was one of 2 homes in 2025s that were lost to wildfire. The precedent set by this board was to pay for Dooley Farms permit fees and the structure fire. In terms of income, they're both retired. To answer your question, Pamela Sue, or PS, worked for the post office, and Gregor worked for a ski company going for about the last 50 years. So, and he also maintains the water supply in the subdivision. So it's a complete loss. I've spoken with Chief Thompson, and there's no malfeasance or anything suspected in terms of the fire. So that was cleared. And my other action and request from this board was to follow up on the other structure fire in Woody Creek, and I've reached out to both Amanda and Jake Anderson, Chief Anderson, on the Aspen Fire Protection side, to see if we would see a rebuild in Woody Creek. The couple's sons both live in the valley, Chris and Chad. One is an electrician, one is a contractor, and so the goal is to rebuild the home for their family. the dad is nearing, I think he's late 70s, 78 possibly. And so the goal is to rebuild in 2026. And the ask of the board is for the board discretionary fund to pick up the fees, which is basically an internal transfer between community development and the Board of County Commissioners.
We also did it for the family whose house was burned in snowmass.
I think some of the difference though is they had demonstrated some difference between with ability to pay, and I guess I'm just wondering if insurance is not. Has there been any indication that insurance is not sufficient for the cost of the rebuild or anything like that?
Not that we're aware of. And what I would say is that I don't know if we have do we have a formal request from the resident at this point in time?
So there's a formal application. They're in Sages already to rebuild for their parents. So basically the son has filled out Sages. They just surveyed the property, and so they're in with community development to do the pre-application and move forward to building in 2026.
So I think in the past what we've had is if the applicant is requesting the fees are covered by the BoCC, that there's a letter submitted to the board for consideration of waiving those fees. And in the past, Kelly, that might be what for them to speak to what is the financial hardship of why they cannot cover the fees.
I don't remember that with the Dooleys or the Cersei.
I did.
What's her name?
Cord.
Cersei?
Cord.
What?
Wasn't it Cord?
Yeah, that
C-O-E-R-D-T.
name. Also, what we did with those two families was we expedited their permit process.
And I've already spoken with them about doing that. Like
Right.
that's an easy,
Right.
I won't say easy, to communicate to staff on that front.
Do you remember the financial need part of the other two?
I don't, but again, it sort of lands in your laps. But it definitely in both of those cases, the board covered all of their planning application fees as well as all of the permit fees.
I was working pretty closely with those families. I don't remember that.
I remember one of them definitely addressed the financial hardship, of.
Well, they said it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any documentation or anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I certainly want to be as empathetic as possible in these two cases. Sounds like my concern is I don't get a sense that we really have a policy on this. And in the event of, say, a wildfire that takes multiple houses, I want to understand how our policy will form if a precedent has been set. And so I think this is worthy of a conversation so we can contemplate all of this, just how many times can we do this before we can't do it anymore? And so I just wanted to bring that up. I'm a little nervous, but I also understand the hardship and would certainly like to be able to help them. But how many times more can we do that?
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, just because we've done it in the past, maybe we need to start being a little more diligent. And they're going to have a estimated cost of construction, right, when they submit for permit. So I guess it just doesn't seem like it'd be that difficult to submit like what their insurance payout is and show the difference for us to like at least have some indication that there is some hardship.
Does insurance usually not cover permit fees?
I don't know what insurance covers, but they may not be covering the full cost of construction in this valley, right?
Right.
So, like a replacement value as opposed to whatever insured value. I get that there's likely a difference, but I think it makes sense for us to be a little more tied up about approving these personally.
I'm sorry, but I don't agree with you guys. I think that we don't have that many house fires. Yes, if we had a huge wildfire and half the county burned down, that would be a different situation. But we're talking now 4, I think, in the last 3 years. And I would like to see us take care of those people to the extent that we can and without their having to jump through a bunch of hoops about whatever. If their insurance were covering it, they probably wouldn't ask us for help. Why would they? So that's my feeling.
Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't you? If we've given it out before, I just think we should be diligent with taxpayer dollars.
I think that is diligence to help somebody whose house is.
But they may not, I mean, they may totally need it, but we don't know that.
I think, again, maybe I didn't express it. The two retirees who built this home who are now facing a rebuild. And so part of the emotional relief is having a county that will support people that have lived here for 50 years in that rebuild process. And the reason for bringing up both Light Hill Road and Woody Creek is to say, yeah, in the course of 12 months, we had 2 structure fires. And we, the board, have generously reached out to both homeowners through Roaring Fork, Rural Fire, and Aspen Fire Protection. At the time of a total loss, Red Cross is also contacted. So there's other safety nets and blankets we have in place to support people, going to the thrift store to walk through and get clothing, to start on that replacement of what they've lost. And to me, this is should be a policy. Right now it's discretion, and we're following the discretion that was followed by past boards in terms of total losses of structures due to fires.
And some of those which provided an argument of their financial hardship. And I'm not disagreeing with the values that you are presenting here. I'm just articulating a different value of what is important as we choose how to spend our dollars. So I'm not going to support it right now, not because I don't support this family, not because I don't want to support there, but I don't think what I'm asking for creates a whole lot of burden to justify the expenditure. And I'm okay if the board goes a different direction, but it is no insult to them or support towards their loss and their need to rebuild. It's a bit of a balancing act of what I think is not a big ask.
What is the monetary value of I don't know, what's like the average monetary value of the permits that we would be covering?
I did pull up, so the 2 that you all covered in 2024 were 11,000 and 13,000 respectively.
Okay, thanks for doing that.
So I think regardless of where the board wants to go, I think it would be prudent for the board to request a letter from the homeowner to speak to the request that they are asking of the board and to bring that back for all of you to consider, and can ask them to address, Kelly, to your questions, the financial hardship.
We can. I don't know if I heard that that's what the other two wished to have happen.
I think sending a letter of request is fine. I wouldn't want to ask for documentation of income or anything like that, especially for this amount of money. I mean, this is not very much money.
Greg?
Yeah, hi. I'm going to support Kelly on this just because I think this merits further conversation. If it was a matter of doling out, if there was an emergency need for $11,000 or $13,000 today, I would certainly approve that. But I'm just trying to look ahead a little bit and think about, if a wildfire comes, we don't know. We're not talking about losing half a community. What if we lost 10 houses? Could we still afford the same amount of discretionary largesse? Where does that end, and what happens when it does? And the guy who doesn't get it is really upset. So I'm trying to understand a way forward so we can have a policy in this that's both generous and empathetic and fair to everyone, and is a responsible use of taxpayer dollars that doesn't appear just to be a hasty decision. Thanks.
You guys realize, sorry.
Please go ahead. Yes.
We're not writing a check, right? It's an internal transfer between a discretionary fund and another business unit within the same company. So no one's writing a check to a family. We're waiving fees, and this is an internal conversation between ComDev not getting that revenue and the BoCC saying we reduced our discretionary by this amount. So it's really just a silo to silo movement it's not writing a check to a family.
Yes, I fully understand.
Yeah, I understand that too. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Can we request a letter and see what our decision is after that? Otherwise, we will table this for Patty to be our deciding vote, director.
I'm happy to take the direction from the board, which would be go back to both the families on Light Hill and the families potentially in Woody Creek, and follow up with letters from both families.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Is there other open discussion you wished to address? No? Kara?
Thank you. The only other one is follow-up from the board commissions. As we all talked about, there was discussion about the opioid settlement committee, and I did reach out to public health staff. So staff is the voting member on that committee, but there is still a request for a commissioner representative. It is a mix of if it's staff or commissioners from other counties on the opioid program. And in speaking with Greg, he wanted to bring it back to the board to see he would like to step off of that, and if anyone else would want to be backup to staff at those meetings. And there's only 2 meetings a year at this point. It's in February and August, I believe, is the commitment.
Is it going to conclude at some point?
At some point, yes, but they're still working through. Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Kara, for that. I can imagine not being able to attend in February, but I can imagine being able to attend in August. So if nobody has an interest in this, I'll stay with it. But the lift has not been high enough for me to desperately want off it or anything like that. But I just wanted to put it out there. If anybody was interested, it would be available to them. But I'm comfortable to stay with it, but it has been at a certain level of negligence on my part because there really hasn't been that much to do. So just wanted to clarify that. So we can leave it as is, but I did want to put it out to the board if anybody really thought this was something they were interested in. I think it's going to get more interesting, by the way, but so maybe that'll be my incentive to stick it out.
Okay, well, maybe we'll revisit this when we make our final decisions next Wednesday on the commissions. Greg, if you want to forward maybe the link to the committee or some other information for the board to consider what they're getting into, that might be helpful for your cause.
I'll have to find somebody who has that information, okay. But I thank you.
Greg, I know who can help you out, so we can have Amy forward it to the board.
Okay.
And Jenny at Public Health has been the point person on this.
Okay. I had one open discussion in case folks didn't click on the link that CCI sent from Governor Polis's letter relative to Human Services and the Human Services reorganization of structure on how human services are provided and regionalization and all that. We want to be your partners and work collaboratively, blah, blah, blah. And we will extend the deadline, the goal for this reorg by a year to July 2027.
Oh, good.
So I do think all of that is good.
That's good news.
To my
I know,
successor.
Jeffrey, you've been following, so is there anything else you want to add on that? But I think that's a fair sum of what that letter said, and I thought you might be interested.
Thank you for that.
Greg?
Yeah, hi. Another topic, if I can change.
Move on, yeah.
I noticed on the agendas online, typically I go to get into the meetings, I'll just go to the public portal and I'll click on the link on the agenda. And I noticed that it has changed and it was harder to find the link to get into the agenda. And I'm not quite sure how I found my way in, but it's not as clear as it used to be. And I think that's a problem we should have IT address, just so that, it's easy to get into this meeting if you really want to attend. not as a participant, but just as a viewer, right?
Michaelis gave you a thumbs up on that, as you probably couldn't see her.
Okay, I saw her nodding her head, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Hi, Greg. Yeah, that was an effort between Sam, Jeanette, and IT to clean up the agenda, but we'll take your feedback, as I think some of the moderators have had some similar feedback, and we'll let the team know. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I have one. So I met with Matt Yamashita last Monday for about an hour and a half. It was a really, really interesting meeting. And there was quite a bit of information. If it's okay with you guys, I'd like to wait till Patty's here to pass on what he said. However, I do think that he or John or somebody from CPW should come and talk to us about some of the things he talked to me about. I think it coming from the horse's mouth is way better than my trying to say how I heard it. So we did talk about the herds, the size of the herds, where a lot of the deer are. One thing I will tell you that will probably not be pertinent when we can get him in is that there are hundreds, if not thousands of deer, or there were a week ago, at really high altitude because of the weather. And so, one big storm and that's that. So that was concerning that they just haven't come down. And we talked about wolves. We have not had a depredation since August. Let's hope that continues. And I have also, on a side note, re-engaged with the conflict resolution people at CSU. And that's been really great, catching up with them, what they're doing and stuff. But I do think it would be great if Matt came and talked about safe passages and his meetings with Tom Carterman and Cecily and some of his ideas for if there's funding available for that, maybe it could be used here to redirect the elk away from Highway 82 instead of helping them get across it. That's particularly in Emma he was talking about, but we talked about the lion numbers and a bunch of stuff that I think would be great for you guys to hear directly from CPW. But if we can't arrange a meeting, I'll be happy to pass on. I have quite a few notes next week when Patty's here. But like I say, I think we're due for a meeting from CPW.
All right. We can put it on future agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, is that it on open discussion?
That's it for me.
Okay. I'm going to call a special meeting in order to consider one reading of a resolution authorizing submission of a grant application to the Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Transportation, for the new passenger terminal at the Aspen-Picken County Airport. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello again.
Diane should be.
Yeah, and Jessica Monahan as well.
Do you want Joe?
Joe Christie from Jacob and Daniel.
Sure. Yep. I think he's just listening out of interest, but just in case something comes up. Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm Ryan Mahoney, Deputy County Manager. Online, we have Diane Jackson, our Airport Director, Jessica Monahan from Cozen O'Connor, and Joe Christie from Jacobson Daniel, and Liz Woods here next to me. So today we wanted to present to you exciting opportunity. So the Airport Terminal Grant Program, and we'll go through a few details. If you want to go to the first slide there, Diane, thanks. So the Notice of Funding Opportunity came out on December 8th, and a pretty quick burn to turn that around by January 15th. So staff is prepared to be able to meet that deadline. We've been working behind the scenes to get that application completed. As a little bit of background, this grant is through the FAA and DOT at the federal level. It is the Airport Terminal Program, and that was a program that was established back in 2021 through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. The total amount available for this grant is $1 billion. That being said, their money is split between, and you can see up on the screen, different sizes of airports. So we happen to fall in this non-hub, non-primary size of airport. And so there's about $100 million available in that pot of money. So we've been working, as I said, with staff, which includes some of our outside counsel like Jessica, to get an idea of what would be prudent for us to ask for to stay competitive in this process. If you want to go to the next slide. So directionally, we're at about $190 million on the cost for the new terminal. We are proposing that we ask for about $15 million in this grant program, and that way we stay competitive. We had a lot of discussion about how much to ask for. Obviously, want it to be as meaningful as possible for the project, but that being said, we want it to be competitive and not just sort of outright dismissed if we ask for too much. So we have landed on that $14,750,000 number. There is the cost share for us of $775,000. And by way of background, in 2025, there were 128 projects that were selected. So the average was about 7.6 million. So you can see it is fairly competitive. We expect that to be similar in this round. And only 12 projects received over that $15 million mark. So it is a lot to ask. It's possible that they could come back and give us something less, but what we don't want to do is put it at such a level that they just outright dismiss it, as I said. Jeffrey.
But this is not apples to apples, that's all projects. So in other words, you just defined the NOFO is now 1/10 of what we thought it was going to be, given our category of airport, but your 128 is all. What is the average award within small?
Oh, within small.
Right, because that's not apples to apples, right?
It may not be.
I may be able to step in here too. I'm not sure.
so.
Hopefully you can hear me with the audio issues. But we're looking at an average award of approximately $2 to $3 million. So we are going above what the average is, Jeffrey, just to let you know. And we've had extensive conversations with Jess, who's on the line here, as well as our grant writers, and we all feel comfortable with going in for the 15 million, but not above that. We believe that going above that is really going to throw our odds off of even being accepted for this grant.
Yeah, and also for that category of airport that you're included under, the maximum award that has been made under this program is 15 million. So we're at the maximum end of the spectrum of precedent that's been established. But there's some other considerations as well that we should keep in mind that really underscore the importance of being strategic here and very thoughtful in how we've crafted the scope of the project for the purposes of the application and other things, since I will note this is the first year that this current administration has been responsible for administering the program, whereas the 4 years of precedent that were established that we're relying on to give you these numbers, those awards were made under the previous administration.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So Jessica, and you could say table it, but does that influence then our CDS request for 2027 and how soon after the NOFO? You're shaking your head. So you know my question.
Yeah. I think I know your question, but please, feel free to follow up with further detail if you desire it. But no, it does not impact or influence our CES, our congressionally directed spending request. That is a separate process that is facilitated through Congress rather than through the agency. The agency will play a role, but it is a totally separate process and different strategy entirely as far as how we go about the request, how much we ask for. So there's not an impact there, but we're hopeful and optimistic that we're talking about a combination of the two in the future, not just one or the other, and they are not dependent on each other. So that is, I think, somewhat of a relief that we can hopefully stitch together not just FY26 funding for the grant application, but also potentially for CES and then subsequent fiscal years as well. On the CDS side, not on the grant side.
Thank you.
Did we recently receive some money for the runway?
Well,
I've heard rumors, but I haven't heard anything.
And that's a separate stream altogether.
I know,
Not to
I
make
understand that.
it
I'm
work.
just trying to keep the whole thing in my mind about finances.
we did. So there was, I believe it's 9 million that we were earmarked for, and expect another 30 million, I believe it is, in this fiscal year for the federal government. We haven't received it yet, and Diane, maybe you could just detail a little more on timing on that.
Francie, you'll find a resolution coming, a request for a resolution for 9 million that we know will be awarded to us, which is the first round, and we'll go deeper into pots of money next week at our joint work session with the AAB and the BoCC on that, but that is definitely runway money, and we've tried to keep it very different and distinct, that the FAA has made it known that any of our discretionary money and runway money will be going toward the runway and the runway. That doesn't include taxiways, that doesn't include the de-ice pad or the apron. They have been very deliberate in their stance of runway only, because we are asking for money outside the region.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Francie, I did ask staff to prepare some sort of chart of accounts that can make sense to us about the total budgets and the pots of money and which pots of money we think are going to contribute to which project costs. That I think Ryan plans to present next week.
Because I had heard something considerably more than 9 million. I guess I'll wait a week.
Yeah, and as I alluded to, that 9 million, we're sort of in the middle of the fiscal federal year. And so that's sort of the initial amount, and we expect another amount in this fiscal year yet.
Okay.
And if I may, this circle will probably help. We've shown this in previous presentations as well, but we have several pots of money that we're looking for both the runway and the terminal for the airport modernization project. And right now we're looking at the section of other grants. And what will be coming before you next week is a little bit of bill and a little bit of AIP grants for that 9 million.
Okay.
And we will have a chart for that to explain that better for you, Kelly, in the group with that.
Thank you.
The other thing I do want to remind the board about as well is that the big question that keeps coming up is the debts and the bond piece. And so the thing that we keep pushing back on is that is the last pot of money that we will be using. And so we have to consider all of these other pots of money and kind of stabilize and figure out what those are before we start talking about that debt financing piece of this conversation. So I just want to kind of remind the board, and we'll remind the AAB of that next week as well. But that is why we haven't come forward with like a detailed, debt plan or anything like that quite yet.
Can I point out one other related but off new topic? Jeffrey and I were speaking earlier, and he pointed out in the resolution, and staff will fix this before we sign it, but it alluded to this being a grant from the FAA DOT, and then there are some inconsistencies throughout, so we'll just make sure that that's consistent throughout, that it's the same. So.
Well, and I just want to know, the conversations over the last 5 years have been, 90% runway funding with a 10% match generally, and a 90% we fund the terminal with a 10% match, sort of by the, or 10% grants from the Fed sort of generally. So the amount we're asking for is about 8% instead of that 10, so not hugely far off as long as we manage our costs. But I just think that's helpful.
And there could be other grants that become available that sort of are associated with the terminal that might be more specifically associated with like transportation. So we're keeping an eye on that and can bring those back to you as they come available, if they come available. But most certainly we hope this isn't the end of the story.
Okay. As well as a PSC grant, just to put that out there too, Brian. When we're talking about other grants, we will have a PSC application to come out for eligible portions of the terminal, so that will also help.
Okay. Any further presentation?
No.
Any questions or discussion by the board? I'll have to, Bry's not here to ask, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Oh, Greg, you have your hand up. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thanks, and hi, Jessica and Diane and Joe. Sorry, I'm not there either, but I'm grateful that you're online. My question was, do we have any recent data on the users, the employments of Pitkin County Airport, and how that compares to other airports in the state? Are we still the third, or we might be the second at times busiest airport in the state? And does that figure in whenever these, I'm assuming that has to be part of the conversation whenever an application is made, because we're a small airport, but we have a lot of flow, we've got a lot of bandwidth flowing through here, a lot of flow through, whatever you call it, throughput for passengers. And I'm wondering if that has any significance.
That put us in the category of that non-hub primary that we were talking about. So the NOFO split it out into different categories, and the category that we fall in, given our employment numbers, is that non-hub primary, which would be the around $1 million. And Jessica, I saw last year they went slightly over that because it's a minimum of $1 million given to all of us in that category. Roughly 300 and some airports.
Yeah.
That would be in our category, 374, I think.
Yeah, and I would also add for you, Greg, that the importance of the airport to the state's network of airports is a feature that we are including and emphasizing in the narrative. So that is going to be emphasized in two parts. One, the category of airport that we're competing under, and then two, an emphasis on the importance of this project, the overall state and region.
Great, thank you for that.
Just clarity, is it 1 million or 100 million? 10%.
100 million is available.
Oh, I apologize for that 100 million.
Well, I think it does say 1 million in the res out, so we should update. It's the third whereas from the bottom of page 1.
From the bottom, let's see.
1 billion total is available. No less than 100 million will be spent on the category of airport that includes ASC.
I'll read it. It says, whereas ASC would be competing with other airports for 1 million in funding for eligible portions of the project.
I think it should be 1 billion in that instance.
Whew, that's a relief.
Yeah.
Okay. Just either strike that one or.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Since this is our one read. Sorry, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if this is for Jessica, Joe, or Diane, but is the grant the same as the grant they've written for the past 5 years? Therefore, the language that's in the grant, that's in the NOFO, is legacy from another administration. So specifically, you're both shaking your heads, which is awesome. I love that I got a reply. It talks about LEED and climate, which we thought were verboten. And so the question is, given we're going from conceptual to schematic, how do you frame the narrative with regards to the most sustainable airport in the world?
You might get a different response from all three of us to
Yeah.
this particular question, but I'll start, and maybe Joe too can add some color. So what you're seeing in the NOFO that does seem like verboten language that is because language is statutory in nature. It was written by Congress. So technically it still stands. However, the FAA has discretion that it can exercise, and therefore a lot of these categories for consideration for a competitive application have discretion applied in this instance. We have a set of articulated priorities from this administration that is a shift from the last 4 years of the program that really emphasizes user experience enhancement, improvement to airports that support public health, such as exercise equipment, facilitating a better flow of passengers, particularly families, more family-friendly facilities, things of that nature. So that is, we've been very deliberate in how we have described the discrete phase of the project that we are requesting money for to align with the administration's priorities, more so than some of the statutory language that we know is not a priority for this administration.
And we can be assured that Trump does push-ups every time he goes through an airport.
It's pull-ups, actually, Francie.
Oh, pull-ups, that's right. Yeah, way harder.
No, that was the Secretary of Transportation.
Well, I know, but it's his administration.
Yes.
Trump
We
really.
a little tongue in cheek there, but I will say
prioritizes
there was
health.
actually an announcement this morning from the Department of Education where there is now a prime example of the sort of statutory basis for a Department of Education program for higher education was not necessarily followed closely, but rather discretion was applied and how that money was doled out, and instead was applied to projects that emphasized priorities of the administration versus what the structure and emphasis of the program was when it was created by Congress.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing to make sure, if we're supposed to do that, that we've covered all of our bases. So if there are any members of the public here who wish to comment on this resolution authorizing submission of our grant application to the FAA for terminal monies, please raise your hand or come on up. Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for further discussion or a motion, please. Go ahead.
Where are we doing this on a Tuesday?
Because they need to submit it by the 15th for.
Oh, yeah, we
I
don't
just
meet till
want to
next.
thank you commissioners for doing this on a special meeting because we did not want to wait till the last day to be able to get approval and sign
Got
and
it.
submit it.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing submission of a grant application to the Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Transportation for the new passenger terminal at Aspen Pitkin County Airport.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll note Greg online was able to join us online, so it's a 4-0 vote. All right. Best of luck in the next week as you finalize this submission.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And
Thanks.
yeah, Jeffrey.
No,
Are
thank
you
you.
waving
I was waving
goodbye?
back.
Okay. All right. All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Good night. All
Happy New Year.
right. Motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Is there a second?
Sure.
Greg, second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. And that concludes our work session on Tuesday, January 6th. See you all back here on Tuesday, January 13th. Thank you.
I'm really glad to not refer to January 6th again. It just is a little rough.
Yeah. January 6th. Oh my God, there were so many.